Alright, what's up everybody? Alright, heads up, I'm having there's like heavy winds going on, the power lines are flopping around and my lights are flickering. So if I randomly disappear, that's gonna be why. We're getting into the windy, rainy season, so um out of my control. We are waiting. We got 16 minutes to go, it looks like. I just went and watered all the ducks and the chickens and gave the chickens, well, I gave the ducks. Man, those ducks are beasts. They're destroying everything. They just got a bunch of old cabbage. Yeah, it's end of May, end of May, beginning of June is when we get the windy, rainy season. So we've been getting high winds. We had high winds yesterday. Chris and I are pretty sure we got to get the connection to the house fixed because we're pretty sure what is affecting us is the line from the power pole to our house, which is it stretches like it's almost half a block because we are a ways away from the telephone or from the pole. So there's if I can do it this way, there's a line that runs across and then our power line is draped on top of that. And these lines are from like 25, 30 years ago. So and yeah, so we're pretty sure that something is loose somewhere because when we start getting winds, this is what happens. So there's a connection short happening somewhere where the power lines are like, hey, there's wind happening. It's been every year, but it's been noticeably worse the last couple of days. So it's like, it might be time to call the power company out and be like, hey guys, fix this. Oh, looks like we got a preview soon, starting soon. We're getting some music too. There's a hint of some music. They have the volume really low. We can maximize over on this screen. There we go. Welcome aboard, Ralph. Thanks for the YouTube membership. Appreciate the support. How is the new ducky female? Phantom asks. We're calling her Cappuccino. I literally just had to go get her because she's been jumping over fences. She's doing things she's not supposed to be doing. She was in the chicken coop when I just went out a little while ago to water everybody, so I had to get her out of the chicken coop. She doesn't. Her wings are clipped from the previous people who had her, but what she does is she gets up against the chicken wire, and our chicken wire is not taut, so she figures ways out to like climb the chicken wire with her feet and just kind of flapping her wings around, and she goes, I want to go over here. I want to go over here. I want to go over here. So twice this morning. The funny thing is, every time Chris goes somewhere is when I have to deal with all the animal shit. So like, when Chris is here, the animals don't do anything. When Chris leaves, so she went to the city today to help her niece and one of her sisters go to the doctor for some stuff, and I'm left alone with the homestead right now. So all the animals, they always do stupid stuff when Chris isn't here. Last time it was Renato, which is our male duck. We had put him in the front to keep him separated, excuse me, because he's trying to kill the ducklings. Um, it's like 7 o'clock at night, and I hear this horrible racket outside of the house, and I go outside. The neighbor's dog is going ape shit, and Renato is like 7 foot up on this, like, we have chicken wire closing off a section of the front yard of the backyard to keep the stray cats from coming in, and he was like 7 feet up this chicken wire in this corridor between our house and the neighbor's house that's only like this wide, and he had somehow gotten in there and was flapping his wings around and falling backwards and damn near broke his foot, because he's hanging from the chicken wire like 7 foot up with his foot through the chicken wire, flapping his wings around, trying to flap his wings in this tiny little corridor. And it's like, why does this? And I'm like sending my wife text messages, just laughing, like, you're never gonna believe what just happened. And the same day that she left last time, 2 of the baby ducklings almost drowned because they were outside, and the water level of the pool, because it's been really hot when this is like 2 weeks ago. It was like 107 degrees outside, like 42 Celsius. And the evaporation, a couple of the ducklings had gotten in the pool and couldn't get out of the pool. And I happened to go outside to do my hourly check, and I see these two little ducklings completely submerged in the water with just their heads and their beaks out, like almost drowning. So I was able to rescue them. And it's like every time you go somewhere, the animals do stupid things. So today was just Cappuccino, the new duck that Phantom was just asking about. She just had gotten in the chicken coop, and earlier this morning, she had gotten into the other duck's enclosure, and Raquel, the mama duck, was chasing her around the enclosure, screaming at her. So fingers crossed nothing happens while I'm here on the live stream. Yeah, the good thing about we live next door to, well, not next door, but like a block away from one of the city council members. So usually when there's issues in our area, we can just reach out to her and be like, hey, and we're probably going to reach out about the power line soon. I'm trying to wait because what I would really like to do, this is a really old house and it only has a 110 line. So what I would like to do is get a 220 line down to the house, and to do that I've got to have the commission come out and run a 220 line. So it's like, do I have them fix the 110 or just have them completely replace the 110 and pull a 220 to the house? I haven't decided yet. We're trying to wait. Homeowner shit, man. But that's kind of the thing, you know, we bought this place for cash money, and you just take it as is. And so we've fixed a lot of stuff here since we moved in. But the electricity is something we're going to have to take a look at. I'm really hoping it holds through the storm. If we could wait till after the storm season would be ideal, and then take a look at it. Because we're also thinking about building a, I don't know what you would call it, like a terrarium? Like building an enclosure on top of the house to put like a garden up there, like a rooftop garden. Because right now it's just open sun, which is why in the summertime my office gets roasting even with the air conditioner, because I just have a flat concrete roof above me. And I am a west-facing office building. So I have shade on this side from the neighbor's building, from the neighbor's house, but we get the sun from the afternoon, so we're talking about building putting a sheet metal roof on top. A bunch of neighbors have this, and then they don't have theirs enclosed, but what we would like to do is put a sheet metal roof up there and then enclose it all with chain link, and then chain link the stairs coming down so that our cats can have an additional space they can go up to, and then we will just line the walls of that with planters and plants and trees and ivy leaves and all sorts of other stuff, and then have like a rooftop terrace garden barbecue area, and then the backyard can just be for the chickens and ducks and everything. At least that's the current discussion. That was the discussion from 2 nights ago when we were starting to look at the power line situation. It was like, well, we need to do some work this fall. The question is, do we do the work before or after we buy another piece of property? Because we're trying to buy another piece of property right now, so. Anyway, welcome everybody. Fingers crossed. Again, you'll see the lights flickering. Again, for those of you who are new, I live in the middle of nowhere. There's some winds going on. Power lines are flying around, and I may or may not lose power during today's live stream. But if we don't lose power, we are going to be watching the Dune Awakening live stream, which is happening in about 10 minutes. This is covering mid-game and late game. And showcasing stuff I've never seen before. So even though I've been in the closed beta for a while now, and I've done a ton of stuff with Funcom on this game, I've not actually pushed myself too far into the game because I didn't want to spoil it for myself. So I'll be starting on June 5th with the Head Start access, so for those of you who are wanting to stick around for that journey, don't forget we'll be starting bright and early on the morning of the 5th. Servers go live at 8 a.m. Central. I'll make my Siege information known at that time for those of you who want to join me in early access, Head Start access on that Siege. So if you're going to be starting with early access, stay tuned for more. And there's a playlist down below. If you're watching on YouTube right now, if you're watching on Twitch, get over to YouTube. Down in the playlist, I've got about 85 videos already covering tons of stuff from Dune Awakening, a bunch of guides. We did a Q&A with Joel Bylos and Ole Andreas a couple days ago in their Discord for the content creators in the closed beta. That was a 20-minute long video. We did a bunch of Q&A stuff. That was pretty awesome. And today we're going to be getting a chance to look at some of the mid-game and late-game stuff. Phantom says, are you looking at buying property in the same area? I think for now, yeah. Originally we were going to hold off and just wait until we had enough money in the bank to buy something up the mountain, but Chris is wanting to... We have money that's sitting there just not doing anything, so she's wanting to invest in some local properties and set up some rental properties because that's what her sisters do. So that's what we're looking at right now is we're going to buy a local property and set it up as a rental. So right now we're just eyeballing 5 or 6 different places and having discussions, and I won't have anything to do with that. That'll just be Chris takes that and she'll be the one managing that. So I will probably go help inspect the property and do some renovations, but I won't have anything to do with the day-to-day of that. That'll be Christina's thing. Because originally we were just going to sit on it and wait until we had enough money saved to buy a property up in the mountains. But with the way values are going up right now, the cost of living is just skyrocketing, and the property value is going nuts around where we live. So better now than never. I love the music for this game. They've done a good job so far. Egg laying chicken, says Gaderis. Yeah, we're reducing our egg laying brood right now. We were up to about 30 chickens, and I think we're down to about 20 now, and Chris is slowly reducing those down because she prefers the ducks. So I think she's going to end up going down to about 10 to 15 chickens, and then have 20 or so ducks. Ducks are quieter. We're 4 minutes out. JDL says pre-ordered Dune this morning. Also signed up for the Chrono Odyssey playtest. Nice. I haven't looked too deep into the Chrono Odyssey. I know it's being marketed as an MMO, and I'm just kind of like, I don't have time for a lot of online games right now. Dune's the first online game I've been interested in playing in a long time. And I really won't be playing it with other people too much. It'll be mostly solo, like 99% solo. I might occasionally do some, co-op stuff, dungeon runs and stuff, but I don't care about the PvP or any of that stuff, so I'm just here for the story. Well, I think, since it's, what time is it? It's about lunchtime, right? Subscribers, no, not necessarily, but you know, community members. I'm definitely not doing a guild this time. I'm done. We're not doing any guilds this time. All right, I've got a Sauvignon Blanc. I'm not sponsored by these guys, but Finca Las Moras, for those of you who are into wine, Finca Las Moras is a pretty good vineyard out of Chile. They have some pretty good stuff. And then I've got some Gato Negro Cab Sav behind me. I think I'm going to enjoy a glass of white while we watch the stream this morning. So, saludos, cheers. What's up, Bubbleonium? Jorge asks, are we able to play Dune early? If you have the Ultimate Edition or the Deluxe Edition, you will be able to start early on June 5th, which is next Friday? Thursday or Friday? I actually don't know what day it is. I gotta look at my calendar real quick. Next Thursday. All right, we're a minute out, kids. Take your bios, get your coffee, smoke them if you got them. And again, if I randomly disappear, it's going to be because of the power issues, so I apologize in advance. Supposed to be getting a look at mid-game and late game today. Yeah, Theories, anybody who says ooh Funcom doesn't really know Funcom. They don't really like video games if that's their take on things.
Few survive this world. But those who do.
Make sure we get the volume all the way up on the other device here.
Awaken. The desert wants you dead, off-worlder. If the sands don't take you, the storms will swallow you whole. But you don't have to walk this path alone. In every danger, there is...
I love that shot right there.
The foundation of something greater.
Oh, the building is so good in this game, kids. I love the building.
Waiting to be harnessed. Desert power. Some claim to rule this planet. But Arrakis is yours to explore. To fight for. To conquer. But there are forces beyond even your control.
Bless the maker.
Master Arrakis, and it will open your mind. This is your path to awakening.
Hey, Bubbaloni, if you're still here in chat, was it the Benny Gesserit that can make the grenades? Who makes the grenades? I forget. You had said something about that the other day. Because I know you were rolling Benny Gesserit for like knives and something else. Natasha!
Hello everybody to our, and I can't believe I'm going to say this, last developer live stream before our head start and the full launch of Dune Awakening. I'm Natasha Rösli. I have the honor to be your host for today. And I think I'm not the only one when I say I'm so excited for you to experience what our teams have been working on for the past years. So some of you have gotten a taste of what the game feels and looks
Troopers.
like during the beta weekend. But today we go beyond the beta and show you a glimpse of mid and end game of Dune Awakening. We have first a little segment where we talk beta and combat. We then have live gameplay.
I wonder if they're going to show off the new stamina stuff.
We go into live gameplay of the Deep Desert. And as always, we have a Q&A in the end, where we'll be connecting questions from you, from chat, live during the stream. But before we dive into all of that, let's watch a brand new video.
Bit of trooper with your BG, nice.
Combat in Dune Awakening is the fusion of melee, shields, ranged, abilities, and vehicles.
Boom! Shakalaka!
As you progress, your tactical options expand, allowing you to express yourself through different styles of play. In the beginning, combat is a short, brutal affair.
Especially because you don't have shields in the early game.
Do everything you can to knock your opponents off balance and open them up for a retaliating strike. Keep an eye on your stamina, or find yourself in trouble. Early abilities change the paradigm. Use the voice to force your enemies to come to you.
Or have a turret, because the Mentats are the best starting class ever.
Knee charge into melee range. Ranged weapons like the Mauler pistol allow you to maintain distance and take down enemies from afar. Until a shield...
Yeah, the shield is a huge upgrade.
Boltzmann shields change the nature of combat. Their kinetic barrier can only be pierced by slow-moving objects. Fast on defense, slow on attack. Swords, daggers,
this is a good video.
And rapiers are effective for dealing with shielded enemies. But without a shield of your own, you will quickly be overwhelmed by enemy fire. But the shields also have a weakness beyond the slow blade. Ranged attacks cannot be fired from inside an active shield, creating a window of opportunity for the others to exploit. Specialized range weapons can counteract shields. The drill shot rifle fires drilling darts that will attach to a shield and slowly pass through.
So cool. I never got one of those. This is what I used a lot of this.
To overwhelm the power supply of the shield.
This is one of my favorite weapons, just because I suck at aiming, so it's nice to have like a rapid fire.
Swordmasters use their deflection ability to close the distance and bring their crippling strikes to bear on their enemies. Troopers use their techniques to take to the air and bring death from above. Bene Gesserit stop enemies in their tracks with the power of the voice, or use their Bindu dash to quickly close the gap. Mentats control the battlefield with their Sentinel, or use the Hunter Seeker
Sentinel for the win,
a
baby.
silent takedown. Abilities, ranged weapons, shields and melee work in concert to mastery. But
Take a whiff.
Mastery lies
Ride the storm.
Consume it to awaken. Transcend human limits with new abilities and prescience, seeing what others cannot, the narrow path to victory. Combine these techniques freely to experience sandbox combat. Create unique strategies and bring them to bear against your foes. Always remember, Arrakis takes the weak.
That was a really good video. I gotta say, I haven't seen that one before, so that was pretty dope. I'm still playing Mentat at start, but I do want to get some of those trooper grenades because I did not take advantage of that in the weekend.
And we are back and diving straight into our first segment, showing you mid-game in the Hagga Basin towards end game as well. But first, let's of course introduce our guests for today. Here on this side, we did let him out of the doghouse. We have Joel Bylos, aka Chris Knife, our creative director. Joel, you want to introduce yourself quickly?
Hi everybody. My name is, I have to admit it, Joel Bylos this time. So because this is the last live stream, I'm going to admit that my name is Joel.
Love it.
It's fine. And yep, looking forward to talking about everything we're going to talk about today.
Yeah.
Yes, and on this side we have Scott Jr., our executive producer on the game, new face.
Yeah. Finally let me out.
Yes.
The game is gone.
Exactly.
But yeah, it's good to see you both, and good to talk about Dune finally.
Very excited. So, Scott, let us do a little bit of a throwback to beta.
Sure.
Players, as mentioned, have had, let's say, not a small taste, but a taste of the game, the survival aspect of the game. Maybe we can have an infographic where we actually see what the players in the beta were able to experience. Here we have a little infographic. What was the most valuable takeaway from this beta?
I think getting the game in so many people's hands so they can understand what we made. When we started working on Dune, we wanted to make more than just a normal survival game. We wanted to make a very Dune game, first and foremost. And so that's
I think they accomplished
not
it.
obvious.
I
what
mean,
we were
I
doing, 'cause we
feel
were
like
taking a
they've
lot
got the
risks
spirit
trying to do
of
some new
Arrakis
takes
and
on
have
things
Dune
to make
down
them
pretty
more
good.
Dune than survival. So we have a lot of people finally being able to play the game and understand, what we're trying to do. So that was great. And then seeing the feedback and the reactions and all the social media posts, all the YouTube videos.
Everything
been
else is just
fantastic to see all the
polish
feedback.
once it goes live.
My personal takeaways is that we had a couple technical issues that we were able to sort out and get fixed pretty quickly. Some issues with some crashes and freezes that we've already fixed. So I'm really excited to get the game out next week so everybody can see what we've changed.
Yep.
Anything you
100%.
wanted to add?
No, I mean, for me, it's just a lot of fun to watch people finally playing. Like, someone asked me on Discord like a year ago, like, tell us about the game. They wanted me to describe the game. They weren't in the beta, and I was like, well, it's very hard to describe because it's something unique. Yes, it has some familiar survival stuff, but we've layered it all underneath the Dune IP, and it's really hard to describe how all of those things come together to create something that I feel is kind of unique and interesting, right? And so, I think it was fun for people to really get their hands on it. I mean, we've been talking with the closed beta players for a while, but seeing people in the world having it, streaming it, putting up YouTube videos, talking about what they were experiencing, I think, importantly, people finding out whether they like or dislike the game as well, because I really like people to be able to make an informed choice about what they're buying as well. So, yeah.
100%. I think one thing I can add to this as well is, like, for me, having a little bit more of a bird's eye view of how the developers and the teams were reacting to this, because me too, we have been so close to the game for such a long time, you can't really judge it anymore, like, from a normal, like, gamer perspective. And then seeing all those amazing kind of, obviously there was feedback as well that we kind of needed to address and things, more on that in a second.
Yeah.
But it was just so fun to see how everyone kind of was like, no, we have something here, like people are enjoying it and they're getting it and they're like having fun playing the game, and that was really great to see from that perspective as well, like just overall.
And the moments like people almost getting eaten by the sandworm, right? Those are very tense moments that happen in the game, and just seeing the reactions for people has been fantastic.
Exactly.
Yeah, there was one thing I really enjoyed was also like watching people coming in. I don't want to say skeptics, but they kind of, as they hit the beats of the game, as they progress through the game, in the beginning they're like, okay, this is this and this is this, and they kind of, and then like they're like, wait, wait, you can combine the suspensor belt and the sugar wire claw, and you can, oh wait,
Yeah,
you can do
both.
these things. Oh, cool! I got like, and suddenly the game, like, it's opening up more and more, and they're really starting to understand the philosophy of how we approach the development with the sandbox, right? So, I don't know. As I saw people experiment, I was just like, oh god, people they're seeing and doing it. It's
They
great.
get it. They have
get
those
it.
light bulb moments that you were
Yes.
hoping for, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
and they just were growing more positive as they played more, right? And that to me is huge. It's really important.
Yeah. And it's, as I mentioned, that are the things that are really great to see from kind of an outside perspective as well.
And it was good. It's the first slide was showing this, right? It's just the first 20 hours, so it's just a taste of the game, right? It's just the very beginning of Act 1. We have so much more to show, and
Which
the best
is
parts are here to
the
come.
rest,
can
quite
talk
a bit,
about it.
like a little bit of the stream as well. But going back to the beta weekend, there were of course some things that weren't that great, that didn't go as planned. One of those moments was, of course, the PvP moment in the broadcast, and when it comes to melee combat specifically. But we have actually worked on this and addressed it. Scott, maybe you can give a bit of
Yeah,
context
so
to that.
we were aware of this issue. We've been in closed beta for a year and a half, almost now,
Yeah, like
right?
year and a
the new
half.
combat
Feels
came
like
in
more
in
than that.
August of last year.
Yep.
And we've been making tweaks based on feedback and playtests that we've been doing. So going into the beta, we knew that there was that issue around stamina and what would happen if it ran out, and we'd already been working on it for over a month to try to fix it. So we patched out a change to it. Do you want to go over the details of that?
I mean, the high level changes it's something like this now, right? So heavy and slow blade have been separated as attacks. So a heavy staggers people now, and then a slow blade finishes them off, like, or goes into the slow blade attack. So you actually, now holding the button, you'll actually do a heavy attack. All attacks have now got proper stamina costs attached to them. And then in addition, if you're in a place where you're getting into the stun lock situation, you get an ability which is called Second Wind. It just pops on and starts to restore your stamina bar quickly, so you can dodge out of any sort of stun lock in that situation. So yeah, we've been doing balance around stamina costing on everything. We've been doing balance around the way attacks work. I think it's all working pretty well. Scott and I did a fair bit of PvP ourselves.
We're pretty bad at
on
it.
the top of a
we-
shipwreck.
Won? Did you do well?
I think
Yeah,
I
won,
won
yeah,
day
yeah.
1, and Joel won day 2. Maybe?
I think you won day 1,
Yeah.
but that was because on the second day I slotted the Bene Gesserit technique, the Mentat technique, which allowed me to avoid his voice power.
Sure.
And then he
Mentats
wasn't
for
able
the
to
win,
get me
baby.
anymore. So then it was fun. Like it's
There you
fun
go,
to
rock,
see
paper,
how
scissors approach.
how the dynamics work,
yeah.
right? So it was a lot of fun. And yeah, I mean, I think we're still, we put it on the closed beta. We're getting feedback from people and testing. But one thing is important to stress, right? It's a live game, and we're going to continue to patch and update. So we'll be paying a lot of attention to what happens as the game goes live. and as
Iterations
people
for
are
the
playing.
win.
And we're here to make the game better. That's our job. So
Yeah, absolutely. That's beautifully said. Thank you. But enough just a dry talk. Let's jump into some gameplay. So we actually have an example of group gameplay. I'm like, that word is just not as
I thought you were gonna, when you said dry
Glam
examples, I thought you were going to break out the wine. But let's.
Well, I have
Maybe
some,
should
so
bring them. Go
cheers.
ahead. You're welcome. But yes, so we have some group gameplay, mid game actually.
Yeah, mid-ish game,
We can
yeah.
probably just comment on it as
Sure.
well, what we're seeing and how it's different from what people have seen in the beta specifically.
Sure, you want.
Sure, yeah, I can go. So if you played to the Vermilius Gap, the journey is still very isolated to yourself, right, and your sand bike, and you have a small base. As you're moving into the next areas, like the Hagga, or this is the Rift, right? You unlock the buggy, and the great
We're gonna reload that real quick at
great thing about the
2K.
buggy is it allows you to start mining from your vehicle, and the resource requirement as you go further and further into the game is more intense. But the buggy and other systems like that allow you to increase your harvest rate also.
Yep.
And this is a fantastic part, right?
Yeah.
Just moving around.
No, there
going
is
to the
not
different
another beta
resources,
weekend. The game launches next
either
Thursday.
switching
Red
yourself
Dragon.
to the turret, or if you have a friend, having the friend man the mining laser, right? And then being able to harvest resources.
Yeah, the buggy's a multi-seat vehicle, right? So when you get to the mid-game, it's good to start crafting that, right? And then you can get out there and you can harvest. It has a huge inventory space as well, compared to like the sand bike or what the players can carry. Our philosophy of design with the game, like I've seen people asking for more inventory space on their character, but our philosophy of design for the game was that you build vehicles and they become your inventory space. You can see how big this is and how much volume it can hold. So the buggy really is like your mining vehicle of choice as you get into the mid-game. And if you're playing with friends, someone's on the turret, someone's in the driver's seat. You can have a friend in the passenger seat as well. You can bring multiple people, but you can also just like do this alone, jump between seats. In the interaction menu, you just select I want to drive now, I want to sit in the turret seat in mine. But I want to talk a little bit about this location because we're in this place called the Hagga Rift. And as you can
Which
see,
is really
it's this
cool when they
dark,
fly through the Hagga
gloomy-
Rift in
It's basically
ornithopters.
a geological ditch. And Herbert talked about this in the book. He talked about the folk of Pan and Graben. And this Graben are these big ditches, these big chasms that you have on Dune, on Arrakis. And in here, it's like the sunlight doesn't really penetrate to the bottom. And down here, there's been this ongoing war of attrition between the Atreides and the Harkonnen over this shipwreck, which is central to this area. And then as you come up out of the Hagga Rift, you come back into these other areas of the map. And it's like, it's a different style and tone to the desert. And I know people have been concerned, or at least been worried that like everything's one biome. But as you go down into the Rift, you feel it's a very different place. And shout out to our world director, Jeff, like one of his big key points about the world was making sure that we had a lot of verticality. And I think Hagga Rift is like an absolutely perfect example of how you can just keep going down and down through these galleries, and there's bases built up through the entire side.
Getting
It's just
all the
this really
resources
fun place
needed
to
in
be.
Babylonia.
It's like, make it deeper, make it deeper.
Exactly.
I remember he mentioned that.
And this is where all the lights come into play. So headlights on vehicles, personal lights on players come in. At this point, this is where you start bringing things, and yeah, it's fun.
And it's so huge because then you fly in with an ornithopter too. It's like
Yes.
wide, and yeah, it's really fun to explore that way too.
And the music and the setting and the atmosphere when you're down, right? You've been in the harsh desert and the Vermilios Gap with like the bright lights on you the entire time, going like from shadow to shadow to preserve water. When you get down there, like the music team's done a very good job of just setting the atmosphere.
This place is so cool to fly
Is that
into.
it?
When you're down there.
That's our base in the distance there too,
Yeah,
I think,
yeah.
where we're heading. So you can see the wreckage of like the wall. You can see that's a deserter base. Like because of the war of attrition that's been happening here, some of the Atreides and Harkonnen have deserted. And they set up little camps around here,
Ravelites
and
and
they
glow
create,
sticks, baby.
they're obviously hazardous. But now we're coming to a base that we created for this. And this is the Atreides base building set.
Yeah.
And this kind of, I think this is a
Awoo.
Atreides for the win.
this is a great example of what you can do outside of the square blocks that everybody was seeing in beta because they only had access to the first couple of sets.
Yeah, and what's important as you get into the mid game, you start building up your infrastructure, and that's just as important as your equipment or your vehicles. So even if you lose a vehicle, right, like you make your buggy and you get unlucky enough to get eaten by a sandworm, like the infrastructure will allow you to get back on your feet way quicker than that first.
Can we
way game.
can we stop for a second and show a pro tip here? I
Yeah.
really want to pro tip something. So, can someone
Absolutely.
go and use a chest?
Yes. Oh, you want to mention my favorite thing?
So if you go to the wait, is that a chest? Yeah. Okay. Go to. So if you're in a chest in the game and you have a vehicle anywhere on your land claim, you can go to the top of the inventory on the left there where it says backpack. Where it says backpack on the left-hand side, whoever's driving, up there.
up
Yep.
there,
And
yeah.
click the
Yes.
drop down, and you can select the vehicle storage. This is a massive
What?
quality of life for getting things in and out of your vehicles.
Yes.
Because we know it's a little bit hidden. It's not the easiest thing to find, but once you know about this, it ups your quality of life in the game immensely.
Oh,
because you
no
can just
shit, man.
Drive in with a buggy full of stuff, go into your base, click any chest, click on the storage drop down, and start taking things out of the back of that vehicle.
That's
Something
huge.
that the beta test suggested, isn't it? Like directly.
Yes.
Yeah.
This was something
Yep.
people were asking for during the closed beta, and we
Exactly.
implemented it. Yeah.
Another thing that I mentioned before, which is such a small quality of life thing, but we have that too, is you don't have to empty your chests before you can move them.
Oh, exactly.
This
yeah.
is like that's
Yes.
just a complete mind-blowing quality of life gem to me. That's like so nice.
Yeah. So the game works in these phases of like, in the beginning, you need a sand bike to get off walking around, right? Then you move to the phase where you want a buggy to help you to harvest and gather resources.
Yeah, for sure,
And then you move
Babylonia.
to the phase where you want to start building your first ornithopter. And so we have an example of this here. And the vehicle building in the game is very cooperative, right? You can see that these different, we're now adding permissions to allow people to help us to work on this ornithopter. So this, these guys are all in a group. And so people can cooperatively build. And of course, I think this is the medium, the assault ornithopter, as we call it. So it's the medium tier. But the largest ornithopter, the transport ornithopter, also requires you know, a lot of parts and a lot of people. So it's kind of part of the way we designed this was to make sure that we had this collaborative building system in the game, both for buildings and for vehicles.
This is my favorite part of the game, just the building the
I
vehicles
love the building in
actually
this game.
physically in the world, right? Putting the pieces there, working with your friends to make all the parts of them, and then like mixing and matching the different modules to make the vehicle, you know, fit the role that you want to like use the vehicle with for that moment.
Yeah, and vehicles come with different module sets, right? So you can put inventories on some. You can, you know, like we talked about the buggy. You can actually have a rocket turret on top of the buggy, which I think you saw in the combat trailer earlier.
Yeah.
You saw the buggy firing rockets. So you can have different types of things on the different vehicles, and we'll continue to expand that post-launch as well, making the vehicles more and more useful with utility. Yeah, it's fun, right? And then I guess the other side of this is that we can start talking about variants and swatches, which is our
He's
customization
actually going to
system.
change in a second. We'll
Yeah.
actually see that.
So
there we go.
Yeah.
So this
Skits.
Atreides ornithopter.
these guys are aligned with the Atreides.
Boo. Boo.
So here we just switched out the Atreides. And a variant, just to put the distinction in place, a swatch allows you to change the color sets, but a variant allows you to change the physical visual.
The actual
so this
model,
is the
yeah.
this is the shape of the Atreides. It's got the hawk-like lines. It's got the sharp angles.
Boo.
And the Harkonnen have more of an insectile kind of feel to them.
Yeah.
And so yeah, this is and you earn these variants in this case by leveling up in the factions, which is a part of the mid game, which we aren't really showing
Faction
a ton of
grind,
that
baby.
today. But as
I'm
you
going to
join a
Atreides.
faction, go through their quest lines, you earn access to these kind of variants and things like that, and then you're able to use the Atreides colors and swatches. And
For anybody
variants.
who's listening who
both
might
on
be on the
vehicles
fence,
and
if you do
your
decide to
armor,
make a
right?
purchase,
Yes.
I'm going to give a
Vehicles,
shout out because I do have an
armors.
affiliate
They can
link down
represent
below
with your
in the
Harkonnen clothes running in the
description text of my
desert,
YouTube
yes,
video.
perhaps.
If you make a purchase through that affiliate link, I get
it's
a
important
direct
to note that
kickback.
like a lot of our philosophy around this was
Nudge,
as
nudge,
well,
wink,
like you
wink. But
create.
it is an affiliate link. Full
So let's say
disclosure.
you create a tier 4, like a mid-tier armor set, and it's like a scout armor. You can variant swap that to look like any other scout armor in the game. You can't turn it into a heavy armor or a combat armor because we want people to understand in PvP what they're fighting. But you can
that's
change
so
it into any
cool.
other visual of a scout armor, and it's the same with social clothing. It's the
It's
same with
not
you
a
know,
traditional MMO, no, but it
obviously
is an
combat armor, and it's the same with
online
still suits,
Yeah.
which I mentioned,
game
which are
that
kind of our
can be
4
played
major
multiplayer,
armor
Hendrik.
types in the game.
And as you
Social,
mentioned, oh sorry.
No,
And
I was
that's
just gonna say
So it
social
shares
movement,
similarities
social
with a lot of
scout,
the old school
combat
MMORPGs, but
and,
it's
Still suits.
mostly a single player
And what they're showing right now
RPG
is the Vulture
that
mode
can be
and
played with
yes.
other
the
players if you
ornithopters.
choose
So
to. It's an
ornithopters are
always
great, right? 'Cause
online
you have your
game
helicopter
that has
mode,
a
where you can
multiplayer
move in all
infrastructure.
directions. You can switch to the Vulture mode, and then it's more of like a glider where you're going up and down to gain speed.
Yep. Yeah, so,
Basically a airplane mode and a helicopter mode, so to speak.
yeah,
right?
sort of.
it's like a hover mode and a glide
Yeah.
mode, right?
Yeah.
And the vulture mode allows you to be more maneuverable. You see that they have a boost module. Actually, this is fun. Like when you get to too high an altitude, you start increasing your fuel consumption, which prevents people from going too high in the game. Also good to know for people who want to stay, close to the ground. Yeah, and now we're flying through an area of the map known as the Shield Wall, which is on the para-northern side of the Hagga Basin. We can talk about the para-directions at some point, because that's always awkward and weird. But because para-north is really south in relative terms to the map. But this is these are rocky areas, so the sandworm is less of a threat up here, but the enemies are much harder, and the resources you gather up here are much more value, right, to what you're doing. So these are areas where you harvest.
And the
yeah.
first time you're coming here, you don't actually have an ornithopter. More than likely,
Yes.
you don't, right? So
Yes.
then you're having to make the choice of do you bring your buggy here, which is really high, really hard to get to, or do you go with your sand bike and try
Yep.
to climb up the wall? So it's ultimately it's about choice, how you go to each of the biomes, and then which vehicles you bring, right? Which enable.
Because don't forget,
different
the worm
mechanics
can still
based
get
on
you
the
in an
one you want.
ornithopter.
Yeah, and like this area we're in now is known as the Uldum as well, and the Uldum has a little more plant growth
Yeah.
and a little more greenery, and that's because the Uldum is an area where they were doing experiments on some of the land, and we won't talk too much about it, but yeah, we're gonna fly over. I guess this is our second base on the shield wall. Yeah, so this is the
Lots of pinched
guild
shields.
base. So this is further into the game. People have progressed a bit. They're probably so we divide the game into 4 phases: survive, protect, expand, and control. So this would be here. You're either on the expand or the control part of the game. The sort of last 2 phases, right? So you've got a bigger guild. You're working with a larger group of people potentially. You can still play the game solo at this point. Everything just takes a little longer and is a little harder to do on your own, right? And you can still do it. You can craft these ornithopters. There's no problem. But, you know, we encourage people to play together and work together in a multiplayer game.
And we're showing off some building sets we've never shown before.
Yes.
These will be the Twitch drops.
These are Twitch drops, yeah.
exactly.
Oh,
So
there's going to be
the
Twitch
one
drops.
that are-
Nudge,
this is
nudge,
actually
wink, wink,
the
kids. If you're
show
going to be
that
watching me
wants
play,
to
I'm starting on
building
June
set,
5th with a head start
but
access.
those
Make
round,
sure you can watch on
windows
YouTube if you
and
want,
the
but I would
ceiling,
also urge you to watch on
pieces,
Twitch
pretty much
because you're going to be able to
everything
earn
that's more
Twitch
metal than
drops.
white stone. Those are actually going to be
And I'm
Twitch
going to have to
drops
find somebody else to
that
watch
you will
because I'm
get,
going to want to
so
get
they
those
kinda
Twitch drops
expand
too.
on the existing Chome tier set, which I love them. I think they're very
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
They're
It's
really
very
cool.
heavy on the survival aspects, Hendrik.
Yeah, and you can see what we'd expect a guild base to look like, right? Lots of
I've
production
got
going
like
on. I love-
85
it was
videos in
something
the
that we were
playlist
really,
down
like,
below. I would urge you to check some of
pushing
those
on
out
in
because I
the-
got a
in the
ton of
game
guides
development,
talking
making
about
sure
it.
that the fabricators actually show the items being
Right.
crafted as they
Yeah.
craft, so you see them.
It is a
form
survival
up
game
inside
at
the
its
fabrication
core,
units.
so
And yes,
you're
I know
working your way
this
up
isn't
through the
exactly
tiers.
something from June Law. This is one of the places where I was like, I have to make a concession to the game. They don't have fabricators; they're not
cool.
mentioned in the law, but it's fine because it's
It
cool.
looks cool.
Rule
Yeah.
of cool in some cases.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah,
this
there's-
is a vehicle fabricator, yeah.
There's also circuits. Have we ever talked about circuits before?
I don't think they have talked
Not
about
actively.
circuits.
You can
Okay.
please feel free.
They're pretty neat. It's not like as intense as like Factorio, right? Making blue science or anything like that. But you are able to set up different circuits in your base, so you can have some containers feeding into some fabricators feeding into others. You'll never have 100% automation like you would get in a factory builder game, but it does enable you as you get to mid game to start having a fair bit of automation in the game when you're playing, because water and electricity become quite a burden if you don't start upgrading your gear and the infrastructure like we were talking about before. So we introduced passive ways to get water, which is a huge help, because water in the mid and to the end game even is really important through all aspects, not just survival but also crafting.
For my fellow law nerds out there, we call the passive water generation wind traps.
I was just about to say there are actually some wind traps on this,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
we've seen some while we walked by them as well. And yeah, it's just like you also see here how much bigger those refineries are. We also saw a spice refinery as well, actually. Like
Yeah, there was
the
spice
round- the round
refineries there,
tubes. Yep.
Yeah, and that we just saw a room with some decorations in it as well.
Yeah,
Like
we
just to you can pimp up your area in a sense, like put out holograms. It was quite funny because here's a fun anecdote from development. The artist
no.
made a bunch of the artist made a bunch of pot plants
Oh,
for people to put in their
no.
bases, and I was like, guys, it's June.
There is no water to water those
So we have a
things
lot of holograms
in
of
your
plants now.
buildings. Yeah,
I was like,
they
we
look
can
great
have.
though.
Then I keep saying the word holograms. Sorry, everyone. Solido projections.
Solido projections.
There you
Solido projections of
You'd be
plants.
yelling at yourself.
Oh my god, I'd be so mad. I'd be
When he
so
said
mad
pot
if I
plants,
wasn't
my
here
mind
right
went
now.
to a different place, and then I realized he
If
meant
you
potted
like
plants.
decorations, you need to explore quite a bit. Right? We don't unlock them all.
Yes.
Go to trade posts, go to places where there are people. You can unlock tons of the stuff that you're seeing around in the
Yes.
base here.
Exactly.
You have to
My
work a
kind
little
of
bit.
You have to
garden.
work a little
Yeah.
bit for it. Yeah.
Like explore, find people. That's
Yeah,
really good.
and obviously these doors,
Or-
the pentashield doors and things as well. Like once you reach a certain stage in June, you can put shielded doors out, so you don't have to have doors that open and close.
Exactly.
And that's really useful for when you have flying.
Yeah, we
vehicles
see you,
around and
Joel,
hangars,
right,
you don't have to
Bubbleonia? We know where your mind's at,
Some of the cool
sir.
stuff I've seen in beta is they will make a huge base, but it's kind of covering a road. So they'll open up
yep.
the middle of it and then set the permissions on the Pinto shields so that you can actually drive
Public,
through it. So
yes.
you can't go into their base, but you can still go through the middle of their
Yes.
base, which is nice.
It's nice.
Yeah, I agree.
Good guy players.
Good guy players, yeah.
Yeah.
So I think we're actually gonna go up to the roof now and build a transport ornithopter.
nice.
Great.
Which
No.
not
No.
yet. Okay, not yet.
No, we're not.
Excuse me.
No, we're not. We're
We're
wrong.
gonna run around the base a little
not
bit more.
wrong. We're
Yeah,
still
yeah.
Oh.
doing other things.
That's in. Yeah. Okay.
But
few ornithopters.
what
hovering
we'd
around.
like to do is because we're actually gonna go to a social hub later on, and we'd like to throw that to. Unfortunately, we can do only Twitch, so I'm sorry, YouTube. We love you over there too.
Oh, for the
It's
votes.
just our bot is being a bit difficult, so we'd like to do a poll, throw that to Twitch chat only for today. Which of the social hubs you'd like to see? We have 2 available in the game right now.
Eric Keen, Eric Keen, Eric
right
Keen.
now.
Fuck, do I need to go over
One
there
is
Twitch and
Arcane,
vote?
The other one is Hardco.
Hang on,
And
I gotta go
you
vote.
can choose which of those you'd like to see.
I gotta go vote.
Today. So we give you like a few minutes to vote on that while our rock stars and wizards behind the scenes are preparing that poll for you if it's not running already. And yeah, we can talk a little bit.
One of the cool things that they were just showing there is the vehicle backup tool.
Yes.
Where's
I
the
don't know if
boat?
we've talked
Where's
about
the
that
pole?
on stream too much, but once you build a sand bike or a light ornithopter, you can actually build a tool to hide it, or like what's
How do you
the
vote?
real reason, Joel?
Let's
Alright,
go with
polls
the
going on.
Richie's
Use
perfected
vote A.
miniaturization
Sure,
technology,
sure.
and the player is able to miniaturize their vehicle, and it only works for vehicles that have nothing in their inventory.
Correct. Yeah.
And
Jesus, that's a
two types
complicated
of vehicle:
thing.
the sand bike and
Yes.
the
Why
light
can't you just
scout one.
have a poll where you
Yeah.
click a
Oh,
button?
we're-
We have
we're
to
flying
type a
past-
thing into chat.
Highly recommend always using it. Right when
Yes.
you're going to a location,
Yes.
land, store your vehicle.
Yes.
Don't let it get destroyed by a sandstorm.
I learned
Exactly.
that the hard way myself too, so I will never do that mistake ever again.
I see we've gone with spoiler
Ooh.
territory here, and we're flying over the giant power station of Misatariel.
Look,
I don't want to talk too much about it, but we'll let people figure that out in the game.
It looks cool. From
it's my
afar, so
favorite
it's like-
location.
Me
It's-
too.
It's
Mine
really
too.
absolutely amazing.
Mine too.
And the
Mine too.
story involved in it is
So
really cool.
please look forward to it.
And there we have someone doing their vulture roll, which is very nice. Can you hit your scanner as well, whoever's flying?
I'm not sure to do that. Oh,
Yeah, so like that's vehicles obviously get like players got hand scanners probably in the beta, but now you're up to the stage where you actually have a scanner and you're scanning entire like islands by pumping C. So the idea is that again, as you progress, everything just takes a step up in how quickly you can do things. We wanted the game to feel, well, you've put in the effort to get this vehicle. We're going to give you the convenience of being able to scan an entire island very quickly, right?
Yeah.
This is a trade post. This is the Crossroads trade post.
Look at the poll. It's super tight. I love that. Like right now, Arcane is slightly winning. So let's go,
Harko Village
Harkonnen.
is cooler.
I agree.
No,
I
Harkonnen
agree
is
that-
not
well,
cooler.
both-
We're gonna see some
Lies!
from Harko
both
no matter
are
what we do.
super
to
cool,
it.
That's
though.
true.
Both are super cool, but I do like.
Yeah,
Harkonnen
just
personally.
because you're an evil person and
I
you
am.
like Harkonnens.
I am just like
Something
evil
about
for
that
life.
whipping noise.
No, you know the fun part is I always try to go evil in like games where you have a choice and then I end up
course.
good anyway.
Yeah,
like,
feel
because
bad
you
for
can't
the-
bring yourself to do
Feel
it.
bad for those
No.
characters,
So-
I'm
right?
just,
Yeah.
yeah.
So these are the pilots. They were disabled in the beta. You may have met one at the first trade post if you're playing.
And we're going to Arcane, by the way.
We're going to
one.
Arcane?
Yes.
All right.
Yes,
Okay.
we're going to Arcane.
So we're gonna go and visit Arakeen. All right, that's cool. The pilot only takes cash. So you can't have credit. You have to have cash. So we're heading to Arakeen.
She doesn't use it on sunscreen, that's for sure, because she was really sunburned. Like, you know, let's just get that out there. Yes. But yeah, you need to have the cash on you as
Yeah.
well.
One of the features in the game that we haven't really spoken about too much. I mean, well, we have a bit. We've spoken, but I don't think people picked it up in the beta. Oh, here we go. Well, I'll let us arrive because this is cool.
I've never gone
This is
in the closed beta
Arakeen.
to Arakeen.
And as we arrive in Arakeen,
Purposefully avoided
so
this.
one of the features we have in the game is the CommuniNet system. And when a player opens their CommuniNet, they can choose radio stations to listen to in the game, a la like a Fallout game or a GTA game. And this guy, Finn O'Gary, he runs this trash shop, but he actually has a show on the Atreides radio. And if you listen to the show, it's his daughter talking about their adventures on how they got all this salvage that shows up.
Oh,
So it's
that's
kinda fun to just
cool.
like narratively listen. You know, we tried to connect everything in the world. This is again, I want to make this point because I feel like I see it sometimes online, and it's a little, let's say, disheartening. People, we were advertising the game and saying the word MMO,
Yeah.
and then people were like, oh, they took all that off, and we took it off because we do feel like this is a huge world completely worth exploring with lots of other people. But it's not an MMORPG,
Yeah.
and people were getting confused by that.
Yeah.
So we took it down. But I think it's clear when you look at places like our social hubs, our exchange system, our banking system, that we have a lot of elements from those style of games here, right? So yeah, we're looking at
That
the
answers
exchange
the
right
question
now.
somebody asked earlier about, is it an MMORPG?
Players can post things on the exchange, and this is a
Kind
the
of,
banker.
but they purposefully moved away from that
One of the
marketing
things here
to
is
not
you can actually
confuse people.
store,
Because they don't want
items
people
and
avoiding the
credits,
game
right?
because
So
they
say
think
you're
that you
gonna
have
take
to
a
play it.
a long
MMO,
vacation, you're
'cause you
worried
can
about your
100%
base
play
being
it
destroyed for
solo
some
like I
reason.
am.
You can actually fly to
Although I
Arcane
will
and dump a
admit
bunch
that
of
watching
stuff
some
in
of these
here.
bigger
I think the
bases
thing
being
is, like,
built
what
and everything
the
makes me
great thing
go,
is his mustache.
it would be cool,
Yeah,
you know,
it's also
Expecting it
fantastic.
to do some
go
co-op
down.
stuff, but I just don't want to manage people, so.
We've all seen the
Fantastic mustache. You also pay taxes here.
Yeah.
Like,
I'll,
because you need to, like, for the bigger
Gotta keep your
subs.
shoes
Like I
Shields
said,
up.
I'll make my
Actually,
siege
to
known to
make
everybody
sure
when we
you
get started,
have,
and if people
your
want to join the
taxes paid
siege, they
to
can,
the
but I don't want to I'm not going to go the route of fantasy
this
people.
is the
Emperor?
imperial
I'm
consulate,
okay with
as
it
we call
taking
it.
longer.
This is where you go to pay your taxes to the
By the way,
Imperium.
you have to
Um,
go here to pay your
So
taxes
the
on your
first
sub-fiefs.
sub-fief console that you place on Arrakis, the basic one that you place in the starting area, you don't have any taxes to pay on that. But once you get a bit further into the game, and you start building bigger bases, you pay taxes. Once you start expanding that land claim, which you do through these land claim extenders, you start paying more tax. So the idea is that the larger guilds who have more members, who are more capable of achieving things in the game, they have a higher tax rate because they're building out larger spaces. And that, that's our way of making it fair for people who only play solo as well. So they don't have as much tax to pay.
The other important thing about the cities is that's where you really progress through the faction storylines, right? So here's where you're going to come and officially join the Atreides or join the Harkonnens.
Atreides.
Start vying for the Landsraad system and getting involved in the politics of the entire world.
And this is where the advanced trainers are as well.
Yeah.
For people who want to progress past the basic level of training in their particular chosen classes.
Except for Derek.
Oh, Derek, the planetologist, he's everywhere.
He's just traveling around.
He's everywhere.
He's a wandering mentor. You can find him
uh,
anywhere.
Yeah, he's here. He's there. He's
everywhere.
Derek Chenault. Okay, no, enough. Sorry.
It's okay. No, but you have contracts here, of course, as well,
Yes,
and
contracts,
specific vendors, so they have a lot of things to sell as well.
Yes, and the main story brings you to these locations as well.
Yes. So now we actually get a glimpse of the overland.
Yes.
Which is
So you can use the pilots in the trade post to fly to the hubs like we showed, and you use those same pilots to get back. But once you have your own ornithopter, you can just fly to the edge of the Hagga Basin map, and you'll get a prompt asking you if you'd like to go to the overland map. And this is the overland map.
Oh.
And this is again one of the things that I think kind of breaks us away from your standard survival game. This is where we have the ability to infinitely expand this game, where we have multiple maps that players can go to. I think this is where you go to reach the deep desert. This is where you go to reach several of the story maps.
I've never seen
Right now
this.
we've landed on a fuel deposit. We're just picking up a bit of fuel, refueling our ornithopter on there. We're able to expand here for a long time, and this is kind of part of what, again, we wanted to do to make this a coherent universe, right? And make Dune feel like something that, we're going to be working on and adding to for a long time.
So post-launch, there will be new locations that show up here.
Yes.
We'll have events that have locations here for
Oh.
short durations, right? For to shake things up, and eventually when we release huge content drops, they'll be accessible through the overland.
Through
map.
the overland map.
Exactly. One other thing that you can find in the overlap map, which also goes into the story, that we really would like to talk a little bit more about, because we haven't, as you mentioned, it takes a while to also get the story going. So people during the beta weekend haven't actually seen much of that.
Yeah.
So via the overland map, you can also access some of these story dungeons, and we actually do have some footage of one of those dungeons that await you. And Joel and Scott can probably give a little bit of context what we've seen.
Part of Act 2.
So here we're not going to spoil too much of the story, but
Nope,
this is kind of the theme of Act 2, right? You've moved from a survivor doing the trials, now you're getting involved in the politics.
Look, the kitten is back.
Yeah, so there's a lot more interaction with NPCs, dialogue, there's a lot more cinematics, and a lot of locations outside the Hagga Basin that you'll be going to.
One of my favorite characters too.
Yeah, she's
I love her. Everyone does.
In the
kind of.
Cone of Silence.
We didn't mention the Cone of Silence, but you're inside the Cone of Silence here, and the game actually dampens all the sound outside of it when you enter.
She is hot.
To be distributed in the water supply of
And she calls you kitten. I'm already a big
Troll
fan.
murky for lore people who understand.
What is that, by the way? I actually don't know what
The
that
Assassin's
is.
Handbook describes certain poisons. Troll murky is poison in the drink.
That's actually something I didn't know. Like, I was wondering about that earlier. Like, I didn't know what that term is.
So you see we have a dialogue system in the game where you can make choices based on several of the things that you've done in the game as well. Your background at the start has some payoff here.
this water sugar is wealthy.
Again, it's not like, we're not making an Obsidian RPG with all of the choices that something like that has, but we're doing a level of this that's above and beyond what most survival games do, I think.
And you will be interacting with some Dune characters that people
Well, look
are
at her
familiar
last
with.
name.
Yeah.
June fans probably
Please
recognize
her,
already
she'll have to speak to
that last
management.
name.
Yep.
All right, so we're skipping ahead here. We've jumped to the part of the mission where you're heading towards the water shipper's mansion, which is in the Imperial Basin just outside of Arakeen. The player is being sent there to assassinate and poison this water shipper on behalf of the Lara Tuek. And so we come to this new level on the overland map.
Yeah, so your job is to infiltrate,
Yes.
right?
Yeah, she's talking and explaining the mission, but I can't hear it, so I'm just... But
One of the things we wanted to do is make sure all the abilities still work in these, so it is
Yes.
still very sandboxy.
yeah,
There will always be multiple approaches. You
Yeah.
know, if you have a Shigawire Claw, you can use that to grappling hook over some areas. If not, you know, then you're gonna have to be a little bit more stealthy and avoid the searchlights.
yeah, exactly. It's like it's one of those things where our philosophy is like we give people all these tools, but it's a sandbox. Play the way you want to play. Like here, it's we have to find a guy called Yargan, who's her contact. And so like it's like we're quite nice to people. You might get spotted, but you can escape the lights quickly.
That's the one we
I'm
found
not,
here.
you can read the dialogue here. It's fun. One of those ones.
And again, depending on your background, they actually get different choices too.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
It's flavor dialogue, but
Character
yeah.
creation is important.
Why don't we just have this
Yeah.
conversation in that spotlight over there?
This he's a grumpy guy.
I agreed to help Alara with this.
I'd be grumpy too if I had to wear those glasses all day.
Scrapes back in the day. But if you get caught, we ain't met.
Especially when he talks about the place.
Got it?
You'll appreciate this option.
Good. Then ask you questions.
It's like, so which background?
Guarded like a
It's guarded like a
princess.
Which
princess's
background do you
virtue.
have to get that option now?
But there's also a back
That one's
entrance.
for everyone for free.
That one's for everyone.
Okay, I have it in a video too.
But tis.
But there's so many little Easter eggs and fun things that you also wrote, like especially also for like weapon
weapon
descriptions and
descriptions,
things.
item
It's super
descriptions.
fun. Like everything's connected. Like for those.
Flairstick coming in with a
you to do,
$5
like,
super
little
chat
things
says
without doing those,
thanks for
well,
the
we'll
tips
find a lot
and
of
tricks and the
connections, but
time you
also
put
for
into
the
guide
ones
me
you don't.
unknowing. Hope you can keep
Yeah.
on top of
Super fun
things.
to just-
Well, this is
He's also
one of the
explaining
major games
the
I'm
different
playing
ways
this year,
that
and I'll
you
be
can
putting a
approach
lot
this
of time
quest
into
right
Dune
now.
Awakening.
So he's sort of explaining to you, oh,
Thank you
there's
for
like
that
two
super
paths
chat.
that you can
Appreciate
take.
it.
Like, you don't have to go this
Flairstick.
way, you don't have to go that way. Here's how you can get in, there's how you get in, right? So as a player, you can approach this, again, in kind of that sandbox approach. It's like, again, I don't want to oversell it. It's not an immersive sim where you have
Yeah,
like the
no.
Dishonored level of,
Yeah.
but you can definitely find alternate paths into the mansion to achieve your mission. And I think that like a shout out to the story content team with Bernard and the boys, as I call them. They've done a great job with these, setting them up. And here's what Scott was talking about, where I've set the game up in this way. I'm a Bene Gesserit. I'm just going to stun this guy. And then I'll be able to walk past him and he won't even notice me. He won't call up, he won't call the guards because he doesn't see me. Right? And so you can use your abilities, your skills that you've picked up in the game to just pass through these areas. And yeah, it's kind of fun, right? And we just wanted to show that we have more than just, the basic survival game. There's way more going on here.
Yeah, especially like I think it takes about if you let's assume you ignore everything else because there's a lot of choices for you how you want to approach Dune Awakening and what there's to do. But let's assume you're only going for the main story and like those cinematics and things. So it takes you. I did talk to Niels about it as well. It takes about 30 hours until the story really gets going.
Yeah, if you're playing by yourself, just
Yes.
experiencing
Yeah.
all the survival elements and going at it alone. Yeah, probably
Yeah.
30 hours
It's-
to get to part 2.
Yeah, it's deliberately like. I'm not defensive about Act 1, but the first part of the game is deliberately somewhat light, just to give people that, like, learn the world,
chance.
acclimatize yourself,
Yeah.
like, follow up on the Fremen.
30
you have the
hours in
Fremen
Act
trials,
1
and
is
it's
big.
super interesting, and then we start introducing and layering the politics of the universe and more
Exactly,
of this
yeah.
stuff, and more of your personal story, like, what's going on, why are you the one being asked to do this,
Yeah,
what's
yeah.
happening, right?
And ultimately, it is a survival game first, right? So
Yes.
the player needs to learn how to survive in Arrakis, right? And it's a very harsh environment. There's a lot of mechanics to figure out, and then you have to make your way through there and figure out how to get outside of Hagga Basin right before you can experience more of
Yeah.
the politics and
Poison the
intrigue that are
water
going on.
supply.
Exactly.
Here we
and
go.
I really love that we have. I mean, the beginning of the game is kind of story driven, right? You get
Yeah.
context to
Yeah.
where you, well, a little bit of context what's actually happening. You have a person that talks to you and helps you at the beginning. And then, as you mentioned, it goes more into learning the actual mechanics and the tutorialization of the game. And we give you time to get a bit acquainted with everything, or not everything, but a lot of the things, like the basic mechanics. And then we like approach you again with the story a bit later on. And I really love that too.
I love this guy, but we're cutting now because we're not going to spoil too much of what's
No, exactly. So obviously we don't want to show too much. There's more to this dungeon. What we're going to do now, though, is we're actually going to watch another video that's going to lead us into our next segment. So
Okay.
enjoy.
Ooh, another video.
Intense.
Power. Given the right lever, you can move a planet. In Dune Awakening, your path to power leads you through the great houses. But only accomplished guilds may earn their place among the Atreides or Harkonnen.
Is this
Swear
the
your
Landsraad?
allegiance and contribute to their rise in desert power. The pledge is only the beginning.
Is this the Landsraad trailer?
You have come far, and now it's time to take control of the Landsraad.
Yeah, Landsraad trailer, baby.
The Landsraad is the council of great houses that make decisions that impact all the players on all the servers in your world. Your goal, and that of your guild, is to secure their votes so that your faction, the Harkonnen or Atreides, can take control. To secure their votes and sway them to your side, you must complete specific house requirements on the Landsraad board. Alone or together with your guild, your efforts can move the needle. Be the first to fulfill a house requirement to not only secure their vote, but also reap their many rewards.
This is the end game, right?
Whether you enjoy PvE or PvP, there are many paths to victory. If you prefer the relative safety of the shield wall, there are many activities that will not put you into direct conflict with other players,
Harvesting,
while still contributing to
etc.
your faction's rise to power. House Torvald wants you to eliminate sandflies. Rush in, or pick off the deserters one by one with your sniper rifle. House Rashis wants a delivery of ground cars. Join up with friends and build strongholds for large-scale production, and deliver them safely to the House representative by ground or air.
That's dope, dude.
Large-scale production is costly and will require a lot of resources. To be able to craft certain high-tier items, you will also need the most sought-after resource of all:
Spice.
spice. You can buy spice from spice merchants or on the player-run exchange. And it can even be found in smaller pockets behind the shield wall. But to collect industrial quantities,
Deep desert,
you
baby.
must venture into the unknown. The deep desert beckons. Here, violent Coriolis storms sweep across the vast expanse of sand, resetting the map every week, revealing new resources to mine and points of interests to explore. This ever-changing environment offers endless exploration, but also endless conflict.
And danger.
Each house in the Landsraad desires a
Yeah,
specific
so
control point.
exactly,
in the
Lady
deep
Atara, and
desert.
it resets every week with the
Seize
storms.
it
And the
and
Landsraad
hold it over
objectives
time
change
to
every
gain
week.
their vote. Fortify it and be ready for a fight. Other players will soon come to take it from you.
Welcome to PvP if you want to participate.
The
Spice
deep desert
blow!
is also home to frequent spice blows, offering large quantities of the precious melange. You need a lot of spice. Once you've located a spice blow, move your harvesters in place to collect. Just be ready to defend it with your life.
Is it like a spice volcano? Not. Yeah, I mean, kind of, sort of. Phantom X asks. It's like it's a spice blow. The spices come up from the
After a
ground
week of
and
politics,
erupted and
manufacturing,
blown it all across the
and
desert.
conflict,
And you got to come and collect it.
one side emerges victoriously.
A geyser would be a better version. Yeah, a better
The
explanation.
Harkonnen have seized the Landsraad, and the leaders of the player guilds who contributed to their victory all get to vote for a decree that will impact everyone on a server belonging to that world. They choose to unlock exclusive weapon imports rights. By decree of the Landsraad Council, under the seal of His Imperial Majesty, a trade consortium has been authorized to visit Arrakis, providing Harkonnen players with exclusive access to a unique weapons vendor in Hako Village. As the Harkonnen Landsraad term begins, the race for control in the next term.
Oh no! Oh no! I'm thinking that's a technical difficulty on their end. No!
Right. Welcome back. No technical problems at all. It's all
No
fine.
technical problems
no,
at all.
Notice if you didn't say anything, Scott.
Sorry. That's my job.
Pretty sure I couldn't hear it, but I'm pretty sure it cut off mid-VO.
It
So.
probably did. Yes, it really did. But the video is going to be available on the
Oh,
stream
well,
anyway, so
I'll-
you can watch it.
I'll watch the
tomorrow,
video later to do a reaction
Landsraad.
to it.
Talking about Landsraad. So let's go into the next segment.
Yeah.
Endgame and Landsraad. So we know people have, of course, expectations of what the endgame and Landsraad, and especially Deep Desert, looks like, and what it's for, and how people will use the Deep Desert, and how it works. A lot of those things. But I think before we go into more details and show some really exciting gameplay as well, Joel, I think it'd be cool to talk about the vision for what the end game is supposed to be, right? And-
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I think, like, going back to when I joined the project, like, so this is 5 years ago, right? And we were talking about what is a good survival game, like, because Dune, we were making a Dune survival game, and we were talking about what is the vision for an end game in Dune, and the kind of the goal and the idea, at least in the beginning, was like we started with, hey, like, you start by surviving in the desert, and it's that raw nature versus mankind kind of thing. It's the sun, it's the sandworms, it's the storms, but then you move into this new mode of survival, which is political survival, which is the end game of the game needs to be about these big forces, right? The Imperium is made up of the great houses, the Landsraad, the Emperor, the Spacing Guild, Chome. All of these things have an influence, and you as a player are just a small cog in the machine, but we want you to be able to feel like you're participating in this big umbrella system. And so we started there, and then we talked about, like, there's an element of, like, I think very technical game design here, where we talk about player activity cycles through the week. I was looking at, like, games like Rust. Rust has their server resets, which is great for, like, people to start building up, and people really enjoy that cycle. But a lot of people also love having their stuff and not losing it. And so we talked about, like, okay, what about a place, and in Dune it's perfect, right? You have these Coriolis storms, and there's scenes in the book where the sand is just tearing apart cliff faces and ripping down the things in the desert and revealing things from beneath the sand. And so we said, okay, what if we had a map, the deep desert, and in the deep desert, the landscape changes every week. How does that affect gameplay? And then we started there and we talked about, okay, what about if there's a cycle of events that we want players to go through. And again, this is a design. This is a high-level design.
We might actually have an infographic or a visual asset for that. A week cycle of.
Oh, do we?
Yep.
Cool. Fun. You guys are on top of things. I know nothing. Oh
No, not that
no.
one.
Sorry. But okay. Either way, I can
Maybe
just
it's
keep,
not right. Maybe
I
we
can just-
didn't make
I
it
can
in
just
time.
keep talking.
Yeah,
Just
go
keep
for
going.
it.
It's
Go
fine.
for
Sorry,
it.
everyone. I know it's just
Go for
boring
it.
old Joel. But like we wanted to approach this right. So we were like, okay, what if there's a map that resets and the map changes every week, so that it's an infinitely explorable space. And we worked backwards from there, and we said, how do we build a lot of our game systems towards this? So we started with the idea of, yes, the map resets. When would we want to reset the map? Let's say we reset it on the lowest player activity day of the week, right? Which tends to be a Tuesday night or a Wednesday in these kind of online games. And then we're like, okay, and then there's this activity we call scouting and cartography. And then we built a game mechanic around cartography and scouting, which I think we're going to show in a little bit. And that is, and maybe you saw it, we definitely tutorialized it in the beta, you reveal parts of the map. And then we made it so that you can save those maps and sell them to other players. So we create a loop there for players who are scouts, and that happens, let's say, you know, in a player activity week, it happens during the low ebb. The deep desert gets revealed. Everybody needs information. How do we make information a commodity? We create a cartography and a scouting system. Then once that information is gathered, people share it with their friends and their guilds. Then they start setting up what we call a logistics plan. How am I going to control the spaces in the deep desert that I want to control? What is my guild looking for? Are we looking for spice? Are we looking for unique schematics? Are we going after shipwrecks? Are we going after the ecology labs that have been revealed? Like, what are we doing this week? So then they go set up.
And that's all based on
then
the Landsraad.
The weekend, which is when the
Objectives.
highest player activity count is, that's when people are online. And that's where people really participate in the activities in the deep desert, whether that is running ecology labs with their friends or shipwrecks or fighting over like control points in the deep desert.
Frodo.
And then after the weekend, I should say, on top of this as an umbrella is the Landsraad. And the Landsraad are asking you to do activities that take place both in the deep desert, but also outside of the deep desert. There's a lot of PvE stuff in there. And then at the end of that activity cycle, everybody votes. It sets a server-wide change, like a worldwide, I think we should say in our terminology. It changes every rule set in the world can be changed by the Landsraad. And then the Coriolis Storm happens again on a Tuesday, and we start over again with a new weekly cycle. And this is kind of the vision and dream for how the end game should play out.
And this is
how
where the blueprints come into play too.
Yeah, I mean, we'll talk about how that we've set everything up for this to be the case, but of
My
course, no
microphone,
plan
buddy.
survives first contact with players. So another point I would like to make is just we're a live game. We'll continue to tweak and update these things. So, but let's maybe look at and talk about it. Yeah.
Yes, let's look at some gameplay. Actually, some activities that
You're being a
you
monster
might
right
be
now.
wanting to do. So we have like actually a team here that will now go into the desert.
You're using your
Okay,
claws
so
too.
we've
You're being
gone through
naughty.
the overland map,
Yeah, we're in
and
the
we're
shield wall.
we're in the shield wall, which is the southern part
Where you
of the
going?
deep desert.
It's the PvE area.
Correct.
so to speak.
Yeah.
This
So
is the PvE
it was-
space.
It was
Mommy's
important
not home
for us
right now, so
that,
he's being-
people
he's
that are
being
scared
needy.
of PvP or reluctant to get engaged with it, right? That they had
That's
a
me.
place
This is me,
in
the
the
Care
deep
Bear.
desert that they could go to without, instantly getting killed as soon as you're coming through, like in warping in, right? Gate camping or whatever from other games. And this is also where you set up your base of operations.
Yes.
The very first area, because the deep desert is gigantic. There's no water here,
Yes.
and you need to have the logistics set up, and
Yep.
like you can go there by yourself.
So
Like,
they're
I
building
tried
off
it
of
on
a
beta.
blueprint right now.
Try to stay away from people.
The
'cause
green
as
is a
you said, we're
blueprint
not
that's
great
been
at
placed
PvP
and now they're
necessarily.
filling in the
People call it ratting.
blueprints.
Yeah, ratting.
You can go in and rat.
Oh, I'm totally right.
Raid.
Absolutely.
But just to point out one thing here, because these guys are using. So again, coming back to like how do we get towards this vision? We started with how do you build this is going to get wiped every week. How do we encourage people to build bases? Well, first of all, we created this blueprinting system. You bring the diagram of your base, you place it out, and you build it quickly, right? This is very fast. It doesn't take very long.
But you have to have the
With a few
resources.
friends, you get a base put down, you build it up quickly. This is part of the logistics cycle of the deep desert.
And you can either bring the resources from Hagga Basin and all the vehicles that you're bringing with you, or you can harvest there's quite a bit of resources in the shield wall.
Yep.
So you can set this up.
So this is what's happening here. We're building a forwarding base.
Exactly. I was going to say that this is obviously a forwarding base because it is kind of very boxy again compared to like the actual home bases that we saw earlier. Because this is all about efficiency, right?
Yes.
And like fitting your the storages and the all the machines that you need. You know now my brain just stopped working. Fabricators. Thank you.
Yeah, and we made a change, or not a change. It's just the building costs are different in the deep desert, so it costs half as much to build everywhere.
Building
and you
is
get 100%
faster,
when you're breaking things down. Just because we know you're going to be redoing this every week. There's going to be some loss, right? So we're trying to make it easy and accessible in the ways that we can, while still keeping the threat there.
Yes.
And the intensity, right?
Yes. Yeah, I think that's it, right? Like the deep desert is a little bit about that tension as well, that feeling of like, so we're building here, it's the PvE area. I expect people to build their primary like weekly base in the PvE area and then maybe set out some logistics bases so that they can do things like refining spice. And that's where it becomes an interesting kind of like, we'll see how people play out these scenarios in the actual deep desert in the game, but this is kind of the expected behavior. This is what we hope people will do. And we've tried to build all the mechanics into place so that people can do this, right? And that's been a large part of it.
You also see co-building here. There's actually several people working on this.
Yeah, everyone's working together, right?
Yeah,
and that's
which is super nice.
That's the guild focus as well. Like it is a multiplayer game. It's really important to make sure that people can play together and do things together. And I think the fun part in this game and this style of game is that it extends beyond like the traditional MMO experience of like we can fight things together, right? And we can role play together, but you're not building things together, you're not crafting vehicles together, right? We have those options, which is nice.
And it's just cool to see how quick you can use the blueprint system to get like a gigantic base, right?
Yep.
Even though it's utilitarian, right? But yeah, it does what it needs, and it's quite impressive.
Yep.
I know that people are also wondering that you won't be able to, copy your setup inside. So this is literally the blueprint is for the building itself. So everything inside.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. You still have to put the placeables in.
So we're behind the shield wall. I think we've just left the base now.
Yeah, we're actually just showing a little bit of the PvE area here.
So this is behind the shield
wall. And
this is the
PvE area. This is the important thing of the deep desert.
Oh yeah, sorry. Behind the shield wall, there's also PvE elements here. This is the PvE space.
Yeah.
So there are things like shipwrecks that you can raid. There are like eco labs behind here. So there is a section of the deep desert. I know people are really worried about doing PvP. There's a whole section here. It's 24 kilometers long, where you can actually go and like do the PvE part, and we're about to see.
Which is where players like me are still going to be able to participate in the deep desert without needing to get into the PvP aspect
in this section, and we'll see the segment reveal itself.
Right, like Babylonia just said, think
and this is
forward
like
logistics,
one
not
of the
permanent
PvE
infrastructure
segments
for
of
the deep desert.
And
to
what
answer
you'll see
Scorpus's
here
question.
is that we've surveyed one square, and just to give some context, that's one of 81 squares within this map. So there are 81 of these squares. It's huge.
Yeah.
We're actually also seeing the sync chart that you mentioned earlier as well come into play.
So now I don't know whose name it is, but whichever player it is crafting a. They have surveyed. Now they're going to craft a sync chart. They have crafted a sync chart of the deep desert. It tells you in the information which sector of the deep desert, who created it, how long ago it was created, so you understand whether the information's out of date or in date. They're going to share that sync chart with their friends.
Yep.
And then their friends, hopefully, will be able to switch camera perspective and see their friend apply the sync chart, which saves them having to explore.
Yeah,
so this is that cartography loop.
You could go out with like a really quick ornithopter.
Look at this. That's the deep desert over there.
Oh, sure.
To the left.
But you can go out with like an exploration kit, right? That's really fast. That you can go around. You don't have much harvesting abilities, right? And then you scout the area, bring it back, and then your base can roll out with your transport ornithopters, your harvesters, sand crawlers.
Depending what your plan is for the day, which
people,
doesn't necessarily have to be PvP. There's actually a lot of other things,
Yeah, exactly. I expect people in guilds to be figuring things out and how they're going to work together to do these things. But there's roles here, right? Like again, we tried to really build this game with different roles for different people within guilds.
Exactly.
So the idea is, maybe I'm just the scout, and that's what I do because I hate going into fights, but I go out, I bring back the information, then people who like building bases are planning like what our logistics are going to be and what we're going to be doing this week in the deep
Sorry
desert.
guys, I'm playing musical cats because I'm on solo homestead duty this morning.
Are there uniques that we're looking for? Are there specific uniques? I think one of the really important points about the deep desert is that like the unique schematics, the Imperial permits, which maybe people saw, the purple ones, they're on a limited loot setup, so you don't get the same ones every week, and the layouts of the deep desert change. Here we see the trading system. The sync chart's been traded.
And those schematics you can only make a certain amount of times.
Yeah. And now we're going to consume the sync chart, and then we're going to open our map and see that the sector has been cleared, the same sector that was.
So this
sync
allows you to
charted.
scout out for other
So this is
players,
kinda cool. You
but
can create
it's
copies of
relevant
this
to
and
the weekly
pass it off
reset.
to your guild. You can create copies and sell them on the exchange to other players as well.
Yes, and while now they're
Now
actually
the
building a
transport
transport ornithopter, we can actually quickly talk about the Creole Storm in combination with the map, because we actually have a visual asset here
Yeah.
that shows how they can look like on
Yeah,
the
so
map.
we can talk about the rotation. So this is
Yes.
this is like, so let's see that we're going to see 3 weeks of Coriolis Storm changes to the map. So this is week 1, and then we move to, and you can see that there's like 1 eco lab, a shipwreck, and a cave there, right, and a small base, and some spice blows that have been marked. And then to the next week, the layout has changed. Where
Same
things
tile.
are is different. There's a control point now in the bottom left. There's an eco lab in a different place, and a shipwreck that's been uncovered.
And there will be different loot and different
Different
schematics
loot
that
in
you
all
get.
of them. And then we go 1 more week again. And now you can see that this is a bit larger. There's another control point. It's a different house control point now. Different spaces on the map. A couple of eco labs this time. 4 or 5 caves and the shipwreck. So you can sort of see how this changes and how this loot encourages exploration for people each week.
And that's 1 tile.
That's one section.
One of
81st.
One of 81.
Yeah.
But I will
There
say
we go.
this: it's a very big desert with a lot of space.
Yes.
So there's not all the tiles are that populated each week. So people aren't like, oh, there's not 15 eco labs in every square, right?
Oh, this is going to lead to
It's-
people
it's a
complaining,
more
Big,
sparse.
just like they
barren
did with
place.
Starfield
And
about
this
the
is also,
1,000
like,
planets.
important because
But
if we want people
None of
to
the
fight
planets are
over things,
populated. There's no
we actually need to
PLIs
build
on
them to
the
the same
planets.
places to fight
Oh,
over
but not all of the
specific
squares in
ingredients.
the deep desert are populated with
So for the ones who
PLIs.
actually do want to
I'm
keep
gonna
it,
cry
that's
on
to go where they know
Reddit.
they're going as well.
Okay, so now we have a transport ornithopter. This is the largest flying vehicle that you can craft in the game. And this may be my favorite game mechanic because the transport
I agree.
ornithopter can pick things up. And I love it because it can pick up almost anything that is a vehicle,
Yes.
right, in the game. So
One of the things you'll see in the mid game is like the buggy is really hard to get to places, right? Even though it mines so
Yes.
much more than you can ever possibly mine yourself. But it's a pain, right, to get it up on the shield wall or to get it out here.
So a good tactic with the buggy though is to use it as storage and use the transport
Yes,
ornithopter to
yeah.
pick it up and carry it. Are we going to show an example of carrying? I guess we are.
Yes, we
Yeah,
are,
cool.
because
Yes.
what we're actually preparing for here is a spice harvesting machine.
Ah, so the team's going out
Nice.
to
We're going to see
display
some
ourselves.
spice
So
harvesting in
we're
the deep
actually
desert.
gonna
Okay.
pick up.
Just
Yeah.
like in the books
So
and the
now we're
movies.
coming out into what I call the real deep desert, right? This is actually what you think of when you think of Arrakis from the movies, right? So this is yeah, we just got the nice tutorial pop up talking about the deep desert.
Yes.
So this
perfect
is the
timing.
Arrakis that we know from the films. So Hagga Basin is like and it's taking a lot of the information that we have from the books and about like the different biomes and things and making it into a truly sort of interesting PvE experience. But this is the true deep desert of Arrakis. This is the place where people are scared to go. This is where the Fremen live. We're passing outside the shield wall now. This is
Exactly,
where the
but
War of
boy.
Assassins and the PvP
This
is
is
allowed
Spice
to
Blow.
happen. And you can see a spice blow in the distance, which draws people from miles around to go there, right? And
What's up,
I do want to say this section here, if you turn the camera right and left, you can see that we have the shield wall. It goes, this is 24 kilometers long, and you can't see people all the way along. So people who are like nervous about going into the deep desert because they're worried about, you know, the PvP is, I think there's like an element from my end, a designed moment that we've talked about on this project quite often is like, you come to the edge of this vast ocean and you dip your toe in the water and you're a little bit scared of sharks, but you see something in the distance and you think, I can make it. I can get there and I can get back. And the first time it's scary. And you feel that tension.
God
And the
damn it,
second
Joel,
time
you're
and the
making me
third
wanna
time,
do
but you
fucking
feel that
PvP.
tension, but you
Fuck
actually
you.
start doing it, right? And I get that people worry about.
I've
toxic
said
behaviors
since
and
day one
ganking
I
and so
wasn't
forth,
interested in the
but
deep desert, and
we
this
tried to build a
video is
space where
making
you
me
can
want to
get
brave the
away
deep
from
desert.
people as well.
Correct. Yeah. So I think that's really important to talk about. Is in Dune.
Yes,
you were
Red
given the
Dragon. There's a
tools to
lot
get
more
away,
going on in this
right?
game
Like,
than
if
just
overwhelming
survival.
amounts of
There's an
people come after
RPG
you,
storyline,
maybe you can't.
which
quite
is
get away, but
I've
that's
heard
generally not
80 to
going
100
happen.
hours. I don't know if
So
that's
a lot
accurate.
of it is more about
There's a single player RPG
PvP is about
storyline
controlling a
that you could
point
do on your own
and,
without
like,
any other
having to
people.
give up that point
There's
of
the
going
survival
away.
aspect of the game, which ties into the storyline.
Down
Yes,
Sandcastle.
exactly.
There's the
So
base
we're-
building
so on the
aspect of
Landsraad
the
here,
game
this
and
is
the
kind of
crafting
interesting, right?
aspect
So
of
you
the
can see
game,
the
which ties
Landsraad's
into
in
the
this
survival of the
state of,
storyline. And then there's the
like,
I'm done with the
If we
story.
claim this as the Atreides, we're going to win what we call
I'm
a
done with the
Sizzle Rad,
story.
and a Sizzle Rad
What
means
else
that
can
we're
I
going
do?
to get the voting
Deep
power
Desert.
for the week. So a
I
Sizzle
could
Rad
join
is
the
when we can
Landsraad.
complete a row.
I'm a
So
Harkonnen,
normally,
or I'm an Atreides.
if you were Harkonnen
and I can
and
get
Atreides
involved in
this
these weekly
situation, you'd both be
events.
fighting over this particular control point because you really don't want the other one to win for the week.
And you don't have to be in a guild,
But
because
normally, like, it's
all
as
of
well, it's
these
kind of you're always blocking
objectives
each
in the
other and causing,
Landsraad
like,
can
the
be
other team to
accomplished
have to,
solo or with a
you know,
guild.
go back and focus on
Some are
filling
PvP,
out a
some
row
are
or
PvE.
trying to fill out as many squares as possible.
And there's a
So
PvE
we're trying
version
to
of
take
the Deep Desert and a PvP version
Yeah,
of the
House
Deep Desert.
Hagel owns this
So
control point in the
they've
Deep
really
Desert.
thought of everything.
We're in the Deep Desert as Atreides taking over this control point on their behalf. And you can see it's just this control point. It's a place that you have to defend in the Deep Desert. It'll draw other people.
Bubble,
and it will earn you
join
points over
us.
time. It's a classic control point in the Deep Desert. One other thing, just if you stop for a second here, one other thing I just wanted to point out, one of the feedbacks we had in beta was about team markers. And you can see our new team marker system in the game here. It's deliberately only for the 4-person groups. I will not allow this to be in the game for guilds because I want, like, especially I know people talk about Zergs. I think when Zerg guilds and there's, like, 40 people attacking each other on the screen, if everybody can see who's in their guild, it's very easy to target the people that you're trying to Zerg. But if it's just the group, then it's much more difficult for Zergs to actually, like, not do friendly fire.
That's a good
Yeah.
point.
And there is full friendly fire on guilds.
I mean, they can do it if they work for it, right? They can make sure everyone has the same swatches and the
Yeah,
same
sure.
armor.
That's
So there is
what
ways to
somebody
do it,
could
but
figure out.
Quickly switch to
yeah,
your-
exactly.
Yeah.
So that's
We didn't want to take
no
away.
artificial.
Like it's been one of my. Let's say I will say this is one of those things where I have had to fight with a lot of developers on this project about this. There's a crashed ship down there, by the way. It's kind of cool that you could also go loot that. But like it's like giving too much information for free to players actually limits our ability for people to have politics and intrigue.
Yeah.
Because if I can see your name over your head, I know who you are, right? But if I can't, if I don't know who that is, and you dress in my clothing and you walk into my base and you follow me around, it's like I might just think that you're my friend from the guild, when in fact you're just like, trying to infiltrate. And we want to allow that possibility because that is Dune. At its core, that is how things work. There are plans
not
within
wrong.
plans, there are groups within groups.
I remember that from early on, where your kind of law was information has to be
Oh
earned.
yeah, for sure.
That
You
was
see
a
the pop
very
up in the middle of the
early-
screen.
Can I
It
just point out
clearly
that we
tells
just
you
crossed
you're
the
entering a
server border?
PvP area.
Like our game has server meshing tech in the Deep Desert, and it's been a very painful technical thing to get working.
Yes.
But we just crossed a server border. You probably might not have even noticed any sort of hitching
Yeah,
or
there's a
anything
pop-up.
because it's very seamless. And again, shout out to our technical team who've been
Yes,
working their
yeah.
butts off to get this in good shape. But we just crossed a server border from one server to another, and it's basically not visible, which is great.
Yeah, what we call like authority transfer. when
Authority
you move
transfer
it.
between
Yeah.
servers, yeah. So now we're picking up a random sandcrawler and bringing it
Oh!
out to the spice harvesting field. So, I mean, I love that. I love that.
That
mechanic.
is
I think it's fantastic
dope.
fun in the game. Just picking
That's
things
just
up.
like in the books and
Transport
movies,
ornithopter
man.
is quite slow,
Yeah, it's very slow.
so it is dangerous to go out just in the transport ornithopter.
And you can of course sit in the harvester
Yes.
while being
Yeah, you can,
transported,
yeah,
which
you
is
can.
really fun too.
You can also,
yes.
I think the transport
can-
also has like 5 seats as well. So
Yes,
there's,
yeah.
you can bring a whole little group with you.
Or have them standing on
kidnap
top.
other enemy harvesters as well, which is also super fun to do.
But we should talk about spice because
Yes.
that's really
Yeah.
ties the entire end game together, right? So
Yeah.
all the tier, the tier 6 or the last like set of.
So we have
resources,
scout
right? Everything
ornithopters
requires spice,
guarding
to craft
the
it. So
transport
your
ornithopter,
in-game
because
gear,
we could.
your
And I wonder
in-game
if they're going to show
tools,
off some
Yep.
some
in-game
PvP in
tools.
this
Everything,
video.
everything in game requires spice for crafting, essentially. And also, we mentioned the Landsraad. The Landsraad has always the center square of the Landsraad requires spice to win. It's important. The Sandcrawler is like, it's not the full harvesters that you've seen in the films. Those are owned by the big houses. But as you can see here, this is like a little raid event. We just placed a thumper on the sand. We have a guy on a bike. He's riding around dropping thumpers.
You should also hear it actually on stream now. You hear
the thumpers are really important because sandworms roam the deep desert. They will be coming, and you need to be placing out thumpers to distract them away from that sandcrawler while it's harvesting spice. And you want to keep it on the spice as long as possible, just like in the book. You want to stay on the spice, earn as much profit as you possibly can. You can even see the trail that the sandcrawler is leaving in the spice as it sucks up spice into its little vacuum pack.
Yeah,
This is
the
dope.
sandworm stops being, it not stops, but it's less of a threat as you're going throughout Hagga Basin into the mid game. But then at the end game, right, there's sandworms
Insert
all over
Leonardo
the place, and it becomes
DiCaprio
a threat again, especially
gift
when
gif
you're trying to get spice
from the
sands.
Hollywood film.
So yeah, so you saw the sandworm just took that thumper. Hopefully our intrepid thumper placers have put out more of them.
They're totally well organized. They have like several people placing out thumpers. They have like the scouts here in the air that we see as well, which is really cool to see.
Looking for worms.
Plus our transport to be ready for any kind of danger that might occur.
And so
Don't
as soon
forget,
as the sandcrawler,
this
the
could get
person driving
eaten by
the
a
sandcrawler
worm if
knows
you're
that
not high
they're the
enough.
target of the sandworm, they need to radio in and be like, get me off the sand, so that the transport ornithopter will pick them up. But at the moment, I think we're using the thumpers effectively as a team, and this is a part of it, right? Like, this is why the deep desert is very Dune. I don't think you have this experience in any other game, and the idea was to create this. So if you are here with your guild, there's something to do and it's fun and it's interesting, but then other players might show up as well, and that's where it becomes another step, right?
So you're saying it's not just reskinned Conan XLs? Is that what you're saying, Joel?
It's not a
We
reskin.
could talk about what the word reskin means. We could talk about, like, you know, that some of the best games in the world are reskins of other games.
So you see here, though, that there is a lot of sandworms that are popping up here constantly, which is both fun to see, but also terrifying.
There is a limit to how much they will eat thumpers, right? They do eventually get annoyed.
Eventually they have enough.
I'm not that dumb, right? Like
they'll eat thumpers for a while.
I see what you're doing here.
They have a diverse palate.
Yes.
That's my secret,
But
Cap.
this is like,
I'm always high
You
enough.
also see nice spots around to see, like, also potentially looking out for sandstorms coming in. Of course, they're kind of
Worm sign.
devastating in this particular, worm signs. Enemies coming in as well.
Enemies coming in.
Yes,
So it's this is kind of the experience of like harvesting spice in the deep desert from a large spice blow. And there are smaller spice blows like that you can come to with a smaller guild.
We also have them in Hagga Basin, of course.
Yes.
Just
There's just a couple ones in Hagga. It's very limited because we wanted spice to be a rare resource that you need to go out here into the deep desert to get.
And talking about like concentration of people, like the spice flow you can see from really far away, right? 20 plus kilometers away. So you do need to bring some friends to be looking out for other people coming in.
Yep.
There's another thumper down there. So I know we've seen some comments from people that are like, well, you have to go into the deep desert to get like the highest type of gear and such.
That is not true. We have the exchange. We just showed that before, right? So you can be somebody that is making something that a person on the exchange would want, right? That goes into the deep desert to get spice or to get, like some schematics. They can go to Arakeen or Hargo Village, post that, and then you can trade.
You do not have to participate in the deep desert if you want to make end-game gear.
I think there might have been some we can't hear it though, but there might have been some rumblings and some indication that
I think that they got worm sign and they need to move.
There is a player driving it, Scorpus?
Yeah, we do have a known bug in the game where the spice color disappears from the sand.
It's still there. Yeah.
But
so there is a player driving the spice harvester.
There he is.
That's why they.
That's Shy Hello, baby.
That's Shy Hello.
It's great seeing the little sandworm.
Yeah, the little tiny one on the side. You can see the scale.
Little baby, like getting into the action there.
This is the ringmouth worm.
That's the ringmouth, yeah.
And that's gonna swallow everything that's in the
big,
middle. They're like just everything there is.
So, but they got their harvester out in time. But there's the harvester is driven by a player and it has 5 seats inside of it, so you can bring 5 other players in the transporter.
Very well prepared. So
or in the harvester, sorry.
As our crew here is now going back to,
I think they said there was 5 players in the harvester, in the
we do actually have
transporter.
Imperial testing stations here as
I
well.
don't remember how many they said were in the harvester.
And I think somewhat close to one, if I remember correctly, so we can maybe show that from above as well. Again, to just bring it in that there is a lot of content in the deep desert that is not just like flat out PvP, right? So we really want to.
Correct. And this is our high-end PvE encounters happen in the deep desert. So the eco labs or ecological testing stations,
Which are PvE
actually tuned
dungeons.
for 4 players. Yeah.
4-player
So
dungeons.
it's the main PvE challenge would be out here, where you're going to get those unique schematics that we were talking about earlier. But you need to scout, you need to find them, and then you need to perhaps fight over them.
And work as a team. I think these are tuned towards minimum 4 people.
Yeah.
Right,
We actually showed one in our combat stream.
Yeah, the
second
2
part,
streams
yeah.
ago. Yes,
Exactly.
exactly. They're like kind of wave-based, kind of very different approach than the Imperial testing stations that we have in Hagga Basin.
Yeah, and they're different every week.
It's the entrance
Yes.
to Quality Station. And you know, like as the game continues, as we go through live and we continue to update and expand, there'll be more things that show up on the map, for example, Fremen Seaches and things like that, that people would expect to explore. So things will be uncovered. And as I mentioned, like the layouts for the deep desert, they're handcrafted. We have a cool system where we like build the layouts by hand and generate the spaces between them with the sand. So it's kind of like we fill in the gaps with the sand. But like we are building new layouts for this all the time, right? And then over time we'll incorporate more and more elements. So there'll be always something to do. That's the pillar of the game, infinite exploration, right?
Yes.
And that's one of the goals, is to create a space that's always explorable. And something else I'd like to say that I think is like important is we will add, like we have the DLCs and things coming for the game. We'll be adding things in the DLCs, but the deep desert will always remain something that we consider to be at the zenith of the power curve in the game. So we'll keep adding to the deep desert. So let's say that we have tier 5 items in the game and we go to tier 7, then the deep desert will start to have tier 7 equipment and items and things in it as well. We will always try to keep it on par with anything else we add in terms of power, because the deep desert really is that continually explorable space.
The central point that keeps all of the things
Yeah,
together.
we'll continue to add like stuff, and there will be like in DLCs there'll be places where people can get access to gear that is currently in the deep desert, right? When we do that, we'll also increase the deep desert and make sure that there's more things. So that's kind of the long-term goal, is to continue updating the game and continue adding this stuff.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah, to also ensure players about that. So while we actually have our team, or actually the spice harvesters, go back to on the way to the quartermaster to deploy, or like to kind of
Harvest the spice. Yeah.
give him the spice, basically. Yeah, give him the spice for the Landsraad thing.
Refine.
We do have an additional asset. We have actually a video from a stress test that we did with the beta last week on Friday, where we see a lot of things happening.
Shout out to the beta players.
Yes, thank you, beta players. Fantastic work on that side as well. So here, that's actually a glimpse at the stress test that we did. That's also deep desert. Lots of people together.
Look at all those
in the deep
ornithopters.
desert, a lot of ornithopters, and it's just really
All
cool
in
to
line
have like
to
that.
get their ornithopters.
to like
Yeah, we were
see
spawning.
that as well.
They were spawning thopters like crazy. Someone's flamethrowing, throwing bombs. Players never behave when you put them in the same space.
If I remember correctly,
It is one character per server, yes. Correct,
No,
Renfail.
not Camille, sorry, Ignacy. I mean, that was Ignacy.
The context
like
of
a
this stress
total,
test, by the way, was like we were testing people crossing the server boundaries with our mesh servers
I
and
love that
fighting
little
on them.
ornithopter back there. Sorry, it's like, it's just sorry, go ahead.
And fighting along the server boundaries just to see how the performance was. So you'll see people firing rockets, and yeah, it was a cool test. I think we got a lot of very useful data out of this.
Yeah.
And seeing how people were fighting together.
Also, shout out to our automation team, because they every build, right? We have the deep desert, and they have basically they deploy our automation system.
This is
over the internet.
PvP
And
in
it goes and it
ornithopter
tests
versus
all of these
ornithopter
things,
here.
right? So it's got hundreds of ornithopters going back and forth between all the
all the server
zone
boundaries. Yep, there's a lot of testing that goes into a project like this. It's insane.
Yes,
And the more sandboxy you get, the more things can break, and that's kind of what
obviously
makes it
the more
interesting.
freedom we also give to players,
Yeah,
the
exactly.
more
Yeah,
things
yeah,
can break.
exactly.
And like, I think I said that to you earlier as well, that like, story-driven games that are linear and you follow one story are one thing. We do have that aspect in the game as well, but I think what we at Funcom really love to do is we love to create worlds where players can write their own stories and can tell their own stories, right? I think that's such a different approach to
Yeah,
game
it's
development.
One of the ways we describe Arrakis is a crisis generator,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
So
One of the
it
four.
is
Yep.
spawning stories, and that's why like these tense locations like the deep desert are really important, because it does spawn these memorable moments that you remember, that you go
Exactly.
experience with your friends or your
Yes.
guild.
Mm-hmm.
You make friends, you make enemies, and that's really important to like fully experience the politics and intrigue of Dune.
100%.
The power of multiplayer, right?
Yes, like I remember, like we had a lot of really cool. Before we go back to actually delivering the spice, we had a very, actually a lot of really cool moments from streamers and players and YouTube content creators about the beta weekend or from the beta weekend. And I remember one moment, I call it the GTA moment, where one of the streamers, I think he was harvesting
one.
something or something.
Yeah.
Oh no, he was downed.
He was downed by an enemy.
He was
Yeah,
downed but
yeah,
not out.
yeah.
And then the
Yes,
other one
yeah.
comes in and just drives over the enemy that was like targeting him,
Yes.
and he couldn't stop laughing.
Yeah,
It's like these little moments that make, that create those stories that are so fun to share as well and are unique to you then. And it's like, and that is, I think,
That's a
where
lot of
for me,
ornithopters, bro.
that satisfaction of really.
And they're
creating
all
these
unique.
connections.
Yeah,
Like, they've all got different
and I think it's one of
skins,
the
they've all
things,
got
like, we
different,
get a bit of
variables,
fine. Like, we
variants,
get
I
feedback,
should say.
like, oh, jank, right? Like,
Yeah.
being able to stand on top of an ornithopter is janky. It is, but when they asked me if we should remove that, I said no.
No.
Surfing on an ornithopter is actually.
This is very cool.
Why isn't that cool? Like,
Yeah,
why isn't that
be
something
Tom
we want?
Cruise
So,
in
like,
Dune
sometimes, yeah,
Awakening.
we make those choices as well. Like, it's like, yeah, this might look a little weird sometimes, but you know what? It's way
a
more fun when you can do it.
feature,
Yeah,
yes,
it's
a
way more fun when you
I mean,
can do it.
The meta on beta might have been, surfing on ornithopters, shooting people with assault
A
rifles.
little bit of that might be
Yeah,
fixed now. We fixed some of the assault rifle issues.
All right, so let's go back into delivering the spice now. Oh, actually, no. Let's talk.
No,
about,
it's-
I actually want
the way it works, Red Dragon, is that the whole
ask you
game
both a question.
is
We
essentially
actually
the
have
starter
answered that recently in
zones
an interview,
are all
but
PvE.
that's not the reason I'm asking, because I plan
There
to do
are
it anyway. It's
specific
like,
shipwrecks
what
that are
is
PvP, but
each
the
of you's
everything is
favorite
PvE in the
thing
game.
in the game? I mean,
Until you
mentioned
get to
a
the
few
deep
things that we
desert.
saw, like the
Once you get to the
Thumpers
deep
ornithopter and stuff,
desert, which
but
is
I'm pretty
after
sure
the main
there's other
storyline,
things that you're
separate from the
particularly
main
proud of.
storyline, the deep desert is its
So,
own thing.
Survival
Once
games
you
for
get to the
me,
deep
one of
desert,
the
it
best things
starts
they
off
do
with a
is they make the
PvE
world more interactable than
positioning
other
area
genres,
where you
right?
can do
So I think
PvE
the
objectives,
team
and
has
then it
done a
opens
great
up into the
job
PvP
of
open
using the
desert.
harvesting system.
But
Not
everything
only
up
does
to
the
the deep
Cutaway,
desert
like,
is
cut up the resources and get
PvE
it, but you come
only,
across these like wrecked
except
ornithopters.
shipwrecks,
Every
which are
time
clearly
I come
marked
across
as
one and I'm cutting off the
PvP
wings and,
areas that you
getting
go
the
where
resources
it's
from it,
open. You
just
don't
feels
lose
great,
loot
right?
on
'Cause
death, you only lose
makes the
inventory
game grounded.
items,
So I would
but
say
you don't lose
that
your gear,
whole entire
so you
system
don't have to.
there
There's
is-
not a
is
real,
really unique
so
with
if
what
you
we're
do
doing.
choose to participate in PvP, it's not
Yeah,
as,
I mean, for
it's
me,
not full
it's-
loot, anything like that. You never
I think
lose
I'm
your
thinking
gear.
about the one that I mentioned in the interview.
You
as well,
only lose
probably,
your
but,
full
like,
gear
the
if you
Dew
die to the
Reaper
worm.
And the way that you, because I like. Look, I made Conan. We made Conan, and Conan's a bit more stock standard in the survival sense, right? You're chopping down trees and you're harvesting rocks. And when it came to Dune, we had the design principle of like make your designs fit Dune, do not make Dune fit your designs. And it was like, what is harvesting water look like in Dune? And there's a line in the book where Duke Leto is looking out a window and the sun's rising, and there's all these people out in the fields harvesting dew off the flowers, and you're like, that's how precious water is on this planet, and that's a moment that our game needs to have. And so
Yeah, the
it
dew
isn't
harvesters
just
are
like
a
the
legit thing.
It's like yeah,
The
it's cool, this
sickles.
action of like sweeping the dew off the top of plants using this little Holtzman field that drains the water up into, and like not only did the animation team and the effects team nail that, and the audio team got all of that works, but it's also like the back end, the time of day, checking when the dew harvest time is optimal, filling and it's so satisfying to be out there like 10 minutes before the sun comes up and you're filling just liter johns full of water because you understood the game system and you understood the timing. All of those things come together to create an experience that I think for me it's just like, you can't have this experience in any game except Dune. And to me, that's the most precious thing, right? Like, I feel like it's so good when all those things come together. Like, as a developer, that's just the most rewarding stuff, right? And it feels good. And I don't really care if anyone else likes it because I love it so much. No, because I think it really nails it, right?
Yeah.
Like, I can't speak more
preciousness
highly of
of
how
water
cool
in
that
Dune.
works, right?
Totally
And
get it,
shout out to the
yes.
team who worked on it and everybody who did their part.
100%. No, I
Because
get
ready.
that.
because games are made by teams, right?
To
That's the
refine
other thing.
spice.
Yes, absolutely. So we actually made it now to the quartermaster, and we are
So we're going to deliver
delivered the
spice.
Yes.
Try to win the Landsraad.
Every little
Okay,
bit of
so
good matters.
these
Took a while
guys,
to get back.
these guys ask you, you know, so you, because you're sort of you're a minor house or a minor house under the umbrella of the Atreides, you deliver Landsraad bribes to the quartermasters of the Atreides, and they make sure they get where they're supposed to go. So now we're delivering for House Alexan, we're delivering spice, and the House Alexan are a part of the manufacturing unit, which is where they, and so we're delivering 500 spice melange, and then they're going to make sure that it reaches them, and then that will, in a moment, change the Landsraad. So you can see how you have an impact now. So Landsraad is there under the social tab. This board refreshes every so often, so it's been a few seconds since the
There it
last
goes.
refresh. Now we should be able to see our borders refresh with a certain amount of spice. Oh, we didn't go to Alexan. You're on the wrong one. You need to go to Alexan. It's in the middle.
The middle.
Yes, and then we can see that we've delivered some spice, and the goal amount has gone up, so that you can see that we've increased our goal amount with. House
Okay,
Alexan.
so this is how you contribute as a single
Yes.
player
So we
or
haven't
as a
worked
guild.
like once we
4,000 more to
once
go.
we hit 70,000 points, and we can do any of these activities to earn points, like the control point. We can
Claim those.
we can
those
deliver
fields.
spice melange. But once we've done enough to earn that center
So
square,
this is where you get into
then
those
it'll
multiple
it'll
objectives
flip
that
to
you
the
can
Atreides and say
contribute
that we've
to
claimed it
for
the
each
week.
one of the faction areas.
Yeah.
So
That's-
some of them are PvP objectives, some of them are
Great.
PvE objectives,
So
some of them
that
are
was a little
solo
bit of
objectives, some of
a
them are group
glimpse
objectives.
of what mid and end game can look like.
Lots of different
Obviously,
options.
that totally depends on what you like to play and how you like to play. There's quite a lot of options. We showed you a few of them, an approach of what can be done.
We're also jamming like dozens of hours of gameplay into like a very quick
Yes,
presentation.
100%. Like this is very like preparation is everything, which is of course true for the game specifically as well. But before we dive into the Q&A, we are gonna take a quick look at the Mentat.
Yeah, Mentat is the server that is the class that I'm playing. Sorry, I love the Mentat, man.
So then, you're not quite dead.
That's right, baby.
Great plot.
The Mentat is what I'm playing. It's what I've been playing for the last year in beta.
Developed out of the need to replace thinking machines, the Mentats, trained on the principles of philosopher Gilbertus Albans, became one of the most important people in the Imperium. Able to calculate immense amounts of data and devise complex strategies, they are the most advanced tacticians on the battlefield. Combined with advanced assassination and combat technology, you will be able to think many steps ahead of your enemies. With a significantly higher cognition, as a Mentat,
I love the
you
Sentinel
can calculate
turret, baby.
trajectories and weapon handling to find weak points in an opponent's
And the way to like
defense,
specialize
or
your
even guide the
headshots or body
calculations
shot
of an external sentinel
bonuses.
turret to assist you with extra firepower. Focusing on strategic control over raw strength, a Mentat is an expert in assassination technology, using poison capsules to trap enemies in a cloud of death, or when out of sight, send in a hunter-seeker before the enemy has even noticed your presence. For a tactical advantage, the Mentats have devised further development of Imperial technology, such as the shield wall for extra protection. And to fool simple-minded enemies, a projection of yourself will confuse and scatter their focus. Throughout the dunes of Arrakis, any school can be trained and improved by masters, increasing your mental capacity and further advancing your tactical technology will let you hold the strategic advantage in any situation. But to reach the highest tactical operation, adopting other schools of thought will increase your mental complexity, opening up further possibilities.
Yeah, doing a little bit of Swordmaster
Focus
there.
your mind and calculate each step forward to find the optimal probability for your survival on Arrakis.
I never tried a sniper rifle in beta. I have to dive into that a little bit in the live game.
All right, and we are back for our Q&A. So our wizards behind the screens and behind the cameras are gonna throw up questions that have been collected. They're ready now. I was just told, fantastic.
Before anybody asks any questions, though, I just want to make a reveal of my own.
His toe
Special
shoes.
toe shoes today for everybody's.
They look really cool though.
They are cool.
But it also looks a bit like Hobbit feet, to be fair. Like at least close up, Chad. So it's good you have a little bit of a. It's good you don't have
Not
close
for all
ups.
the money in the world.
They were making fun of his toe shoes the other day in the Q&A we did.
From what I understand, they're very healthy though. They're way better for you than actual normal shoes. So
Yep.
That's what they say.
that's what they say.
I started wearing them 10 years ago and I'm still
Still
fat,
not
so I
sold.
don't know.
Super healthy.
Maybe they're not working out.
Well, your feet are very healthy.
My
Let's go
feet
there.
are massively
Yeah,
healthy.
super
Sorry, all
healthy.
right. Enough distraction. I apologize.
No, you don't have to.
The toe reveal was important
You don't have
to me.
to. We wouldn't want you any other way, Joel. All right. Rui's probably going to kill me now.
Yeah.
All right.
We want him every other way.
Every other way. No. It's
Just
all
not with
good. I mean,
toes.
also, you guys make a really nice, you complement each other really well.
I've got
It's got a-
pants. He doesn't have pants.
Exactly. He has toe shoes. You actually wear socks as well. So it's just like, it's a whole balance thing. It's
Yes.
great.
Yeah.
All
Nice.
right. All right. While we still wait on the questions, they're still collecting some of them.
Nobody has
give
any
them a little bit
questions.
of maybe no one has
We've
questions.
answered
Perfect.
every possible question
I
people
wish,
could have is
right,
fully
I
answered.
wish. Like that's kind of both the blessings and the blessing and the challenge of Dune Awakening. I think is just it has so many aspects of different games. That we really tried to put together and
Were you
have
the-
people try and understand.
Were you
so.
there when I was like presenting to the press about the game and I was calling Funcom morons for taking it?
Yes, of course I was
Yes,
there.
yeah.
I was
fun.
expecting headlines.
I-
we
we
didn't
take
get
a
a
lot of
single
risks.
headlines.
Yes.
We didn't get a single headlines like that.
Yeah.
Funcoms are morons.
Well,
Chief Creative Director says.
well, we
It's
are like we keep trying to, like it's one of the things that I love about working here. Is like they let me do crazy stuff.
Yeah.
They let me try and do weird shit. Like
mean-
it's like you could work somewhere where you're doing the same game every year. Speaking of reskins, like and you're making the exact same thing and you're within this box and it's like and like I do like that we're allowed to push beyond those things,
I
right? And
agree.
try harder to do something different. And yeah, it comes with a little bit of jank, but man, I don't know. I feel like it's
think-
like the
He had a
I
funny
agree, though. I
anecdote the
think
other day
one
about
thing you
getting.
can't say
Well,
about us
yeah, I
is
probably
that
shouldn't
we
say
like
that.
it easy.
No, exactly.
like-
We're morons. We make it hard for
NDA
ourselves every
stuff.
time.
It's what we were talking about at the beginning, right? We make unique games, right? We take risks, and sometimes it means that we make divisive decisions. But I think that's what was great about the beta, right?
I will
Is
say
that
I've had a lot of
people
fun with
get
the
to see what
Funcom team
the true
in the
experience
closed
was.
beta for the past year.
Exactly. So
However
we're
long I've
ready
been
actually
there.
for the questions. So is that Lopiel 1?
I've worked with a few teams over the years,
Is
but
the
the
exchange
Funcom team has
global
been
or per
generally
server?
good people.
It is per world. So the world is what we call a container of all the Hagga Basin that you will play and interact with, right? So there are hundreds of worlds, so it is not global.
Yeah, it is one deep desert per world,
Yeah.
2 social hubs per world, and then many Hagga Basins per world, and that is what we call a world. And yeah, as Scott says, at launch there are hundreds of worlds to choose from, right? And within each world, there's many Hagga Basins to choose from.
Right.
Yep.
All right. And Speak asks, are the overland map dungeons instanced per player? Can you do them as a group, or are they open like
They
the
are
social
not
ones?
instanced, no.
The answer is that they are not instance for a group. They are per player, and they are not open like the social hubs.
They are instanced, though,
Yes, they are
to a
instanced.
limit.
Oh, they are,
so,
okay.
Several people in the same world can be doing the same,
Oh,
like
Yeah,
the
single.
water fat
Yeah.
mansion. Right?
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
which are kind of our only instant content in that way,
Yes.
in that
Yes.
sense.
Yep, correct.
Charlie Foxtrot CTV asks, how do the different circuits work?
Oh, they basically isolate.
Because I know
resources
Bubbaloni
so
and
that
I
they
ran
can
into another
only be
player when we
used
were
if
doing
they're
that
on
dungeon
that circuit.
in the beta
and then you can
preview
set the
event.
circuit for
So
them.
I assumed that they were not
It's a little bit hard in
instanced,
the UI,
but apparently
you
they
can
are.
set like a machine's input and output circuit.
Yes.
That way, and so that's kind of
Yeah.
the extent with it.
Like draw from this storage, deliver to this storage when you're finished, right? Like and that's
Basically,
how this,
yeah.
Or this group of
Yeah,
connected
and
items.
yeah, exactly. And you can set a certain number of storages per circuit, and so yeah, so Yes, that's basically it.
Kriegsdrachen asks, how will they ensure balance between Harkonnen and Atreides?
There are systems. I think I talked about this in that other.
You
when I got
you
that
just
question.
mentioned as well as
I
like
hedged it
we
last time.
have, but
We
you
have
didn't
some
want to
systems,
spoil
but I'm
it,
not going
which
to
we
talk too
should
much
exactly,
about.
exactly.
And then when we introduce a third faction,
Yep.
which we are planning to, it will also have a role in that balance. But that's basically what I can say right now.
I will be
But
100%
ensure-
joining
I mean,
the third
ensure
faction
is
if
very
it's the
hard.
faction I
Like,
think
it's very hard
that
to
it's
like
going to
be
be.
100% certain because, when you give players choice, they choose. And so you can't guarantee that it's going to be 100%, not 100% people on Atreides on a world. But I think we have pretty good systems in place to make sure that at least feels like it balances itself out pretty well.
Yes, and the deep desert is not Atreides versus Harkonnen.
Yes.
It is every
Yes.
person for themselves, right? So even if Harkonnen are kind of dominating a server, or they're 60-40, they're going to be fighting themselves in the
Yes.
deep desert as well.
And that's actually something I forgot to mention when we were talking about the Landsraad. Like the Landsraad, you can see the different within the
guilds.
factions who the top guilds are and who contributed the most. Because a part of the Dune thing is that like it isn't that like everybody in Atreides is a monolith. It's actually like people want the Duke's attention, so they want to be further up. And the same with the Harkonnen, right? Like I want the Baron to witness me, so I'm trying to get to the top of the list of guilds. So there should be inter-guild competition even within the factions. So they overall are working towards the common goal of the Landsraad.
But you're
they're
still trying to
each
be number
other
one.
to be the best in the Landsraad, so they have the most voting power, they get the rewards, etc.
Yeah, especially also because like one Atreides guild might be focused on PvP, the other one might be super opposed to PvP.
Yep.
So they definitely don't want the PvP guild to like get, we want full PvP. So
Yes.
they will, work against them and like,
Yes.
we want to be top because we want to have more say in which decree we're actually going to have
Yes,
next
correct.
week.
Yeah, like exactly.
So-
a crafting guild's going to want the crafting decrees.
Exactly.
And
yes.
they're not going to want the PvP full loot decree, right?
Exactly,
So there's going to be
yes.
that kind of competition, even within the factions.
Yes, exactly.
So, yep, good question.
Cypher asks, can our bases get raided?
He answered this in the
not
Q&A we
in
did the
Hagga
other day.
Basin. They will be safe in Hagga Basin. In the deep deserts, it's a bit different.
Yeah, in the PvE section of the Deep Desert, no.
Yeah.
But in the PvP section of the Deep Desert, there is a mechanism by which bases have a vulnerability window where they can be raided. It is a very short vulnerability window, and again, I would point to the lore of the Dune universe. So I'm sorry for everybody who hasn't read the books and doesn't know a way in which shields can go down for a brief period of time. But it is worth looking into because then you'll understand exactly how the mechanics can work. And I know I'm being needlessly cryptic, but I'm sure there's people spamming in the chat about it already.
Let them
They were
figure it out.
spamming the normal Discord yesterday
Ultimate
about it
Alchemist,
after my
if I don't
Q&A.
take the mission to talk with House Atreides or Harkonnen, will I be content locked as far as processing?
Not as the main story,
Progressing,
no.
sorry.
No, that's
The
fine.
main story and the ability to craft.
No.
Yeah, no. The story, I mean, while it involves House Atreides and the Harkonnen, it is not about that. It's about you.
Yeah, the
and
faction
your
quests
role
are
on Dune.
separate
It's your quest to find the
from the
Fremen.
main
Exactly,
story,
right?
which is
So-
to find the
So the
Fremen.
main story follows that. What we were talking about and what we were showing earlier with the different faction unlocks, like in terms of the visuals and those things, you're locked out of if you don't want to join a faction.
But those
You
are
can't get,
pure vanity.
but they're pure
They-
vanity, right?
No mechanics.
But yeah, you can't. But one thing you cannot join the Landsraad unless you have aligned yourself with a faction. Your guild must be aligned with a faction to participate in the Landsraad. That is the one hard requirement that I think faction alignment has in the game. That's it. Otherwise, yeah, you can do all the content without joining. a
Someone
faction.
said the other day that you can
I
create
also
your
think
own
when it
guild
comes
as a
to
solo
progressing,
player.
In the beta, during the beta weekend, you
I'll
were
have-
still
I don't
very
know
much
enough about
in
that.
the tutorialization part of the game,
Yes,
right?
yeah.
So I know that some players were like, "Whoa, this is very linear and things." But the thing is, things open up quite more once you're past that tutorialization section as well. So you won't be actually locked.
Man,
progressing
next
and
Thursday,
progressing
guys.
or
I'm
progressing
so
with
stoked.
Yeah,
content.
in the opening.
I haven't
Specifically.
played
In the opening
a
of the
big game
game,
like this
in-
at launch since
after
Star Wars:
character
The
creation,
Republic
you
launched
actually
in
get a choice as to whether you
2011,
wanna
so it's
play with
been
an unlocked
14,
tech
15
tree or
years for
locked
me.
tech tree. The reason we put that there is so that people who are advanced survival players or people who've played Dune before can just go, okay, I want the unlocked tech tree, I know what I'm doing. But I recommend, and we recommend, that the locked tech tree is for people who are playing the game for the first time and really, because there are so many, we've been talking about it a lot today, there are so many mechanics that are just kind of Dune mechanics that we want people to learn. and we need to teach them. And it's going to be hard for you to know what to do. Like, you don't know about dew reaping and times of day when you should be out harvesting dew unless you follow the tutorials that we
Yeah,
put
because
in
that's
place for
unique
that,
to
right?
Dune.
So
It's not part of
it's just that.
Enshrouded or Valheim or Once
Or you
Human.
need to go to shipwrecks to craft better weapons.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Or buy the
Cooper's
parts
asking,
from
is
the
there a level
PvE
cap?
vendors.
Yes,
Yeah,
I believe we're at 200
Yeah.
Currently.
currently.
But you can respec.
Yeah.
So it's I believe it's on a 48-hour
Mm-hmm.
cycle. So even if you cap out and you play something and you decide you don't like it, you can
Yeah.
switch to something else.
And there's a point where you run out of, like, you stop getting unlock points for your tech tree, intel points. And then we have a mechanic in the game for you to go around and unlock more intel points by going to bases in the world, like enemy bases and outposts. So there's a level cap that puts a stop to some of those progression things, and then the next step from there is for you to go and explore more and enjoy the game more.
Because we do want you to make some choices. Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Also, like, I mean, there's different level and skill point caps, right? Because you have a character level, you have skill points, and you have intel points. So
Yes.
there's like 3 different
Yes.
caps that you
Yeah,
particularly
exactly.
hit. K69N is asking, is it possible to lose all your gear in PvP?
So not in PvP in the base level. In the deep desert, you lose resources that you're carrying, Solari and Spice.
But that's not gear.
And you take durability damage to some of your gear, right? That's what happens every time you die, PvE or PvP. But if there's a specific decree from the Landsraad which enables full loot PvP in the deep desert for 1 week, then that's the only time in the game where you can lose all your gear in PvP.
But it has to be unlocked.
Or if you're fighting in the sand in a sandworm country.
And Sandworm.
Yeah,
is,
sure.
If you
I
try
guess
to
you
fight
can
the
lose all your gear in
sandworm, yeah.
PvP, but
Yeah.
we count the.
Yeah,
is the sandworm PvP really?
You know.
It's more like PvE, but yes, 100%.
Wolfie1974, are we going to be able to get blueprints that devs made of their bases?
Oh, the
Ooh.
Tor Eagle presents.
Exactly, this is Tor Eagle presents. That's actually very
That's a
cool. I
great
love
idea.
that idea. That's actually very
Maybe
cool.
we
That
can
is a
get
cool
some
idea.
vendors
Yeah.
post-launch with some of our
I was
cremates. Maybe.
yes,
We'll
I
see.
was just about to
That
say
would be
this.
cool if they
I
did
don't
that.
think players should actually pay for them per se, but we should, or maybe they need to. I
Ah!
I
I
don't
don't know.
we
Maybe.
should not. No, actually, let me rephrase that. We shouldn't have a dev sell those items in game, but we can sell it via
Oh,
NPC.
sure, yeah,
That's
yeah,
what
yeah.
I meant, right?
Maybe
Like,
we can put a vendor or something
that'd
like
be
that.
cool. Yeah, like you
Yeah,
mentioned.
maybe a vendor in the world can sell some blueprints.
You see, like Tor Eagle bases
Toregel's the
everywhere.
guy. Toregel's the builder among us.
Dude, he's a
Mine would
badass
just be-
too.
Yeah, no one
Mine
wants.
are boxes.
No one wants to see
Yeah.
my. I'm the guy who tests T2P every
New dog houses.
TTP every time.
Yeah.
So
I'm sure we're gonna have players who make fantastic buildings.
Oh, I'm gonna be building
Okay,
the shit out of
Quintinovich
bases.
is asking, will GeForce now be in Dune Awakening?
I believe so.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know.
There's
I have no idea.
discussions going on.
There's
at least.
discussions. I can't remember what the last is, but people are looking at it.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I don't have Slack open, otherwise you could check.
GeForce
Someone
Now
was
is
like
the
hammering
streaming service,
messages
right?
to me
Yeah,
so
online.
will-
It's like
the question, I guess, would be: will Dune Awakening be on GeForce Now?
Yes.
for
That's,
streaming?
you're not wrong,
Yeah.
Bubble Idiot. Technically,
I
it's
don't know the answer,
PvP
I'm
if you
sorry, but
thumper a
Yeah, I don't
worm
think
into
I have an
somebody else.
official answer, but I believe so. But yeah.
Helping Hans, how do you balance the council wins? If one side gets unique weapons, won't that side have a better chance to win the next vote down the line?
Not necessarily, because the tasks for the Landsraad are pulled from, like, so there's 25 tasks per week, and there's a pool of like 400 tasks that can potentially show up. So you, first of all, don't necessarily know what's going to be there. Unique weapons doesn't actually influence everything. Some of the tasks are kill tasks. You don't know which tasks are going to be revealed first. You also have to bribe Landsraad envoys with spice to reveal tasks. And if your faction does it before the other faction, you'll see, okay, we need to do this. So you might just get ahead because you had more spice or whatever. It's not going to come down to unique weapons. Absolutely not. That's not going to be the thing that means that one side gets a sudden landslide kind of advantage. Yeah, so I think that's the best way to answer that, I think, from my perspective.
I think that's a great answer too, and I think it just goes again into people are a little bit too afraid that everything is about PvP and fighting
It's not.
end game, and that's absolutely not.
It's
the
not.
case.
Yeah,
Not
yeah,
to
yeah.
really, explain.
I'm
things like this,
notoriously
but
anti-PvP, and I'm excited to participate in the end game here because there's so much that I can do that doesn't have anything to do with PvP.
Dr. Evil Eye, is there any content or materials that are hidden behind PvP, meaning that the only way to obtain that item gear material is to risk losing to large guilds?
I wouldn't
Those
say
are
hidden, but yeah. Like you can. The deep desert, which we just explained, is a place where tier 6 gear is, like items and materials for crafting those things. You need to go there to get those things. You can buy them off the exchange. You can trade for them with other people. But yes, you have to go to that place in order to get those things. And there is a risk of people attacking you when you're in that place. We tried to explain that this is a very large place. It's not going to be possible for a guild to cover the entire space. It's just not going to be possible.
Yeah. I think guild limit's 32.
The guild limit is 32
Yeah,
people.
Yeah. So 1 per kilometer,
Yeah.
maybe, if they stretch
Yeah,
across.
they'd have to stretch all the way across, and even then, I think there's all kinds of tactics and ways to draw them off, and I don't think it's going to be a problem.
There are potentially hundreds and hundreds of people that can be in the deep desert,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So one guild would be outnumbered by 100 people.
Again, if you want to rat, you can rat.
Yeah,
Like there's options, right?
And also, like the tier 6 gear isn't required for the story or for anything that's having to do.
Listen
with
to this
renovation.
man.
It's sort of just the deep
FOMO.
But we can't tell people that they can't
T6
get to the
gear
top
is
numbers when
FOMO.
we go up, because
It's
there's
not
people
required for the
always want
story.
that.
I'm
So
so tired of
it's-
answering people on my
No, no,
YouTube
it's-
videos
it
who are
was
like,
not required.
But if you want the best gear
I
in
know
the
people don't
game,
want
and
it.
you gotta
I feel like
run
it makes
it's
sense because
T6, you
those
have to
people
go
who
to the deep
really
desert
care
and do
about
PvP.
no,
the
you don't.
highest level tier are
Like
probably
Joel just said, you
PvPers,
could
and
buy
they
it from
wanna
other
be in the
players
deep
if you
desert
really want it.
first place.
And
So I feel
as
like
Scott
it's
just
kind of
said,
a natural balance
you
there.
don't need it for the
Hopefully we also
story.
have, like, you know,
It's
I think there's this
just
weird-
extra beyond the
I
main
speak to a
story.
lot of people in our closed beta and our Discord, right?
So
and I
good
see
to
that,
hear
like,
that
there's people who
reiterated from the
assume that
developers
everybody
themselves.
who
It
is
is
a guild
not
in
tied
PvP
to the
is going
main
to be this
story. It is
toxic,
extra,
sweaty
bonus,
kinda-
beyond
and I
main
think it's gonna be
story.
the opposite. I think we're going to have the good guy guilds who are out there actually protecting people and like helping people out. I've seen it in the beta already. People, I got lost in the desert, help, and people would come and help
You
them.
don't need it
give
for the
them
main
rides
story.
home,
That's
like,
fluff. That's icing
give
on
them
the
more
cake.
gear. I've seen people in the beta,
I'm
like,
finished with the main
just
story.
give
What else
other
is there to
people
do?
an ornithopter when they
T6.
lost one because of a bug that was in the game from our end. They're like, "Oh, do you want an ornithopter? I have a spare one." Right? That's it's great to see, and I think that people worry too much about toxicity. Hopefully, we'll keep track of it, of course, but it should be fine.
And you have one player for the entire world,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So, and you are your name, right? So you will have some sort of reputation.
Yeah, exactly. There's that as well.
Yeah, as a callback to more old school MMOs that I grew up with, like EverQuest and all those. But anyway, so we have 2 more
EverQuest.
questions. Fort Team is asking, do you need a sync chart for each person in your guild?
Yes. You need to create a sync chart for every person who's going to want to reveal those things that you've got in your sync
They're
chart.
single-use items.
Yeah, they're single-use items, consumables, once you've created them.
And last questions. Neo Valkyrion, can transport ornithopters carry other ornithopters?
Yes, they can.
They can indeed.
They can indeed. I was playing it earlier. I was flying around carrying a medium ornithopter
Yes,
with
they
my
can pick
transport
up pretty
and
much
assault.
anything.
Yeah.
And
Well,
again, they have
anything
passengers
vehicular.
too.
Yes, vehicular. Can't pick up people
No.
unless they're.
Inside.
They're sitting inside a vehicle. All right. So that was it with the questions for today, and also for our last developer stream before
Exciting.
Head Start and the
God.
official release. I'm like still like how. Okay, so
It's like 7
how
days,
do
8
you
days.
how do you boys feel, gents?
Me
How do you
first?
feel?
Go, Scott.
Pretty good, right?
Pretty good?
So beta went really well from
Yeah.
our perspective. The tech was stable, and that's what we're always worried about because we knew the game was pretty good, or we thought the game was
We
really
think
good,
so,
right?
yeah.
And all the tests we had run showed that, but we were a little fearful, that tech would hold, and it went really, really well with the closed-ish beta, right? The weekend, where, the server crash rate was low, the client crash rate was within our acceptable tolerance, and we're fixing most of the issues that we found. So cautiously optimistic, right? Incredibly excited to show the entire game.
I love the
and,
way he words things. I like Scott. I've never seen him on a
the
video
last week
before.
is always,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it's like
Clench.
Scott seems like he
It's
knows his
5 years
shit,
of your life.
and he's
right, and it's like
using
it's
the
like-
right words.
I think that's the thing that I think is like what I'm not sure people understand. Is like when you've been living and breathing this kind of thing for 5 years, and then like you see the game industry is volatile.
Yeah.
Things don't go well for people. We have a team of that I love to work with. We have a team of great people that we've built over the last years. And it's like it isn't about like success in the sense of like, you know, oh, I just want to say that like, it is a game that I think is great, right? And I've played it and I kind of know that it has.
I will
a lot
also
going
say
on,
that
right? And I think it works well, and from the beta we got some confirmation
because
of
of my time
that. But I
in
want
closed
my
beta now,
team to
I
be
didn't know a lot
together
about Funcom
making
before
games
Dune
for a
Awakening.
long time, right? So for me, this is like
I've
I'm
come to
nervous
have
about
huge
that, right?
respect
Like,
for
it's-
them
The gaming industry is not a safe
as a
place
team
anymore, right? It's
from
not
my
easy
experience with
to
them
guess
working
what's gonna be
alongside them as they've
successful. I mean,
developed
I'm
Dune Awakening.
watching things and like, you know, you see
And
things
it's one of
that
the
are
few
fantastic
companies that
from
I would
small
look at
teams
and
going
go,
great.
I would
Like, you know, and
happily
there's been
work
some
there.
fantastic games this year, and
Like,
games
there's
that you
very
wouldn't have
few
predicted
companies that I would look at
coming out
as
of
someone
nowhere,
who's
like Schedule.
not interested in
Schedule
working
one
for
is
other
a great
people.
one, but
I can
also,
look at
like,
Funcom and
Claire
go,
Obscura,
they're up there
I'd
with
heard of it,
Larian
but I hadn't heard
Studios.
of it
I
until
wouldn't.
really
I
it
could.
blew up. And so you
I could
see
work there.
these games, these huge successes. So I think it's like
On Dune, it could be
you
fun.
don't want to have the
Like,
arrogance
they're
to
a
think
good
that
crew
you
of
could be
people.
among that, but you hope, and that's kind of where I'm at least. I'm hoping we strike a vibe. I'm hoping that all the decisions that we made, and there's 10,000 decisions on a gaming project, right? There's 10,000 decisions, and every one of them is about moving towards a goal, right? Towards a vision, a creative vision, a vision of a universe, a vision that a guy created in 1963 when he wrote a book, right? And that's, I don't know, like I'm extremely nervous, but that's what we're trying to get to, right? And that's, I hope what people feel when they play the game is, yeah, okay, you nailed it, right? Like,
I think they've nailed it so
want.
far.
I feel like
But
you've made
I've
an
read the
amazing Dune
books
game.
several
Yeah,
times,
and it's
so
the first where you're walking.
I know there's a lot of
right,
Reddit trolls who are like,
you're experiencing
But the
people's journey.
melee
Versus in
animations
2001.
suck.
Sure,
Why do I
sure,
have
sure.
to use a slow attack
But
to
for
pierce
me,
the
right, so
shield?
in the modern sense, so it's and we have a story we want to tell. People saw a really short glimpse of it in the beta, but there's so much more.
yeah, I wished I would
going
have
through
played
the rest
Secret
of
World
Act
when it
1
came
and
out,
Act 2,
but I was too busy with other
that-
stuff.
And there's this long story that we want to tell over the, like you said, 10 years, right? On
Yes.
the thing.
That's the
So
plan.
He did say 10 years
And
during the
we have
Q&A
a
the
long
other
story.
day.
We want to continue releasing updates, every 3-4 months with additions to that story, in addition to the DLCs that we're going to
Story
come out.
updates
So
every 3 to
when
4
you buy
months.
the game, you're getting everything here right now
For
plus
free, by the
all
way.
story content
For
that we'll continue
free.
to release over the
There's
next
no
years.
monthly subscription
So yeah, we're
ever,
excited.
and they're going to be
It's a
continuing
lot
to
of
expand the
pressure.
story
Yeah,
with
yeah, we'll
updates
do
every
fine.
3
There's
to
no
4
guarantees
months.
in Love and War, but you know what? I'll say this for the record. I'm really proud of our team and what they've done.
And there's no cosmetic
and
shop,
like,
no
no
cash
matter
shop.
what happens, all of them can hold
Base
their heads
game,
up high
paid
because
DLC,
they've
that's
worked
it.
really hard to bring this to fruition.
Absolutely, shout out to our teams, the many teams.
By the
that
way, I'm going to
work
give a
on this
shout out
game
to
with all
Christina
different
right now.
departments.
Every department.
And
Christina has
absolutely,
kicked
it's a
ass as
beast
like
of a game. I
the
think we
It
can
is a
say
beast.
that.
Yeah.
And,
go-between
I'm actually getting goosebumps now. I'm
between the
sorry. I'm
Funcom
actually getting I'm
devs
such a-
guys
I'm such
and
a
those
so-
of us
I'm
who've been in
sorry.
the closed beta
Yeah.
and the sort of
But
content
I think
creator
that's a wonderful note to
influencer
end
team.
this, again,
Christina
last
kicks
developer
ass.
stream.
So shout out to
Yeah.
Christina.
Yep.
Natasha also, but
On
Christina is the person I go to
for,
every
before
day with
it
stuff, and
starts
she's awesome.
and,
Yeah.
release. One thing we can actually say is that you will be able to upgrade your editions on the 10th of January. So there will be an option.
10th of June, I
10th
think.
of sorry, June. Oh my God! I just that wonderful ending. I just completely. Oh, well.
Congratulations.
Anyway, pro here. Right?
So I'll be starting 8 a.m. on Thursday,
Yes.
my time.
So 10th of June, when the game goes into full release, you will be able to upgrade your editions. Should you want to?
Next
do that.
Thursday,
There will be
kids.
options on Steam, and we'll be ending. Thank you so much.
And again, I'll
Scott
have my
and
seats
Joel, for
information
being
and
here,
everything
doing it out
available
of
once I
your
go live.
busy
So those of you who
schedules,
want to
we
join
really
me on my
appreciate it.
server, you'll be
Talking
free
to
to
us.
do so. Only 40 people
And
can join
we'll
a seat,
have a last
but
trailer,
many
and
people can
with
join
that,
under a
I
world
thank everyone
server.
for watching and joining us today, and
So.
hopefully you'll enjoy what's coming your way.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah. See you on Thursday.
Yes, Thursday.
Cheers.
Oh, we get another trailer?
So then, you're not quite dead.
Not yet.
Great plots are afoot in the Imperium. And the currents of intrigue run deeply. You will go to Arrakis.
I've got
as our
goosebumps right
agent.
now. I'm so stoked.
You have one task. Find the Fremen.
By the way, whoever's been putting together the cinematic trailers for this game needs to win a fucking award. They have been doing a killer job putting together these cinematic trailers.
Fleeing the scene of a terrible crash. Who are you?
You've heard the expression, the spice must flow.
Valkyrian!
I'm the man who ensures that it continues to do so.
I dreamed of you.
That's right, baby.
Fire,
Keep dreaming of me.
in the sky, the seer of lies. I am terrified of what happens when you awaken.
We've all lost our way. You can complete the mission.
Yeah, it's Valkyrian. Same voice actor.
Every person carries their past with them. Who are you?
Yeah, he does have a badass voice for like creepy bad guys, main characters. Shai Halud! May the Maker bless us! All right, kids. I gotta go away from here and cut a shitload of videos out to publish on YouTube over the next few hours, over the rest of the day. I will be starting my journey on June 5th at 8 a.m. Central Time with the Head Start access. So, for those of you who want to join in the adventure, again, I will have my Siege information available once I get going with the live stream. No one knows names of Sieges or world servers or anything out. I'll make that information available. We don't know until the game goes live. So, we'll know more on June 5th, but I will be playing. This is going to be the mainstream game from the 5th until the 13th of June, which is when I start the altars. But even beyond that, I'll be playing Dune Awakening throughout the course of 2025 because I have a lot of goals that I want to achieve beyond just the main storyline. There's base building, there's the deep desert. I want to do like some sort of big, like, base like I did in No Man's Sky, where it's like a public base where people can come in and use the crafting stations and wander on by and find cisterns for water and stuff like that. So we'll be doing some fun stuff. I'll occasionally do some co-op stuff from time to time with people who are on my Siege or World server who want to do some like get-togethers for dungeons and stuff. So stay tuned for all that stuff. June 5th is the Head Start access. If you decide you want to pre-order the game and you want to use my affiliate code, the links are down below in the YouTube description. Full disclosure, it is an affiliate link. I get a kickback from that. So if you decide to pre-order, that's the way you can do that. And I will catch everybody next week for the launch of Dune Awakening on June 5th. In the meantime, I'm going to go cut these videos out and get them published on YouTube. So if you're following on Twitch right now, make sure to follow along on YouTube because everything in between the streams happens over there. And tomorrow morning, we'll be back at 5 a.m. Central for more live streams. Catch you tomorrow, everybody. Have a great day.